Oh, g'day everyone. G'day everyone and welcome to another edition of the Weekend Wrap, brought to you by Crowcast. Of course, I was just watching Macca put his glass eyes back in, which is unnerving to say the least, but not as unnerving as a fantastic win that we had this weekend against the Hawthorn Hawks. And if you weren't a believer before, you need to be a believer now, and we're going to talk all about it. So let's crack straight in, shall we? Macca, what the hell were you doing? What?
I suffer from dry eye.
Well, I mean, there's a time. It's the pre-game for that.
Wait, well, they just started hurting, mate.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Weekend Wrap, brought to you by Crowcast. Of course, thank you to everyone who's joined us on Discord and on YouTube. A bumper crowd, gentlemen, in Discord this evening, and of course, don't forget that we are live and interactive. So if you want to have your say on proceedings, then please feel free to stick your hand up, and if I see it, I'll get you on. And I'll be keeping an eye on the super chats tonight too. So if you are on YouTube and you want to get your comment highlighted, then go right ahead and say g'day, and we will put. Yes, that's working. Look, it's working. I will see your super chat and I will get you on featured. Gentlemen, how are we? Macca, apart from the dry eye, everything all right?
No, everything's great, man, except I've already been told off. We just started.
It's not a telling off. It's just a small observation. You're sitting there poking your eyes out. It wasn't a good look.
No, just putting some eye drops in there. As I said, I suffer from dry eye.
I had to delay the start of the... For those that were waiting patiently for the podcast this evening, it was because I had to wait for Macca to stop poking his eyes out.
Well, I wasn't doing that. I was putting lubricant in.
Let's clean it up, boys.
You got to put lubricant in before you start. Cheers, everyone. Brownie, how are you, sir?
Yeah, good, mate. I was lucky enough to be at the game on Friday night and got a few grey hairs kicking on in the first quarter, but ended up a bloody good evening. And the atmosphere there was, electric. It was fantastic.
Yeah, fantastic. And large fella, how are you, son?
Good, thanks, V. Last few weeks we've been saying it's getting real. I think maybe it is real.
Maybe it's real, maybe it's not, who knows. Maybe it's all just a part of building us up to tear us down.
Let's hope not.
Well, we've all got a bit of PTSD, but quite frankly, after that performance, I think we can all, I guess, agree that this is a team that is not going to let you down in a hurry. That they are going to not always be on top, but there are going to be times when they, get behind like we did in the first quarter. But by God, they're powerful when they get going, and that second quarter and their ability to get back into the game was just unbelievable, wasn't it, Brownie?
Yeah, I think they're a much more resilient side than they have been for a long time. And like I think I said to you this afternoon, we were having a chat, they've just got that hard edge now. They're just not accepting mediocrity anymore, and it's showing.
I feel like we got players now, like you said, that aren't willing just to take the loss.
Oh, absolutely. They're I just love the fact that they're sticking up for each other. We don't have anyone they're all tough. They're all standing up for themselves, and they're standing up for their mates. Like Phil Thorpe ran 10 metres to get involved when someone's having a crack at Rankine, and it's just bloody great to see. All the good sides, the Hawthorn sides, Geelong sides that have been successful have had that. And yeah, we've got it, and it's coming from everyone.
Yeah. Big man, did you go to the game?
Sure did.
Yeah, the atmosphere towards the end there, when it looked like we were going to get over the line and everyone was up and cheering, it just felt to me like a group therapy session. Like everyone finally realised that we had arrived as a team that could be relied upon, and we weren't the flaky crows that would drop those games 9 times out of 10. And it just felt like a collective sigh of relief, and that those people that were standing up and cheering and clapping, I think they all just felt that collective sense of, all right, we're here, we're actually a genuine contender.
Yeah, I think it was sort of half relief and half just celebration. The relief part, because obviously we came from 5 goals down and then had to do it, come back again in that last quarter. And the other side of it was because we did this against Melbourne a month or so ago. But Melbourne are Melbourne. Hawthorn are a much better team. So to get it done against a team that's also been quite a real problem for us in the recent years, it sort of felt like a statement from the boys that, we're here and you can trust us.
Yep. Now, for some reason, I don't know why this YouTube relay chat is not happening, but I have got the chat up, and Radicus has already donated a coffee. Thank you, mate. Anyone who said sack Nicks this year owes the rest of us a beer. I think we all owe each other a beer, if that's the case, because there weren't many of us that were on the Nicks bandwagon, Macca, at the beginning of the season.
No. I think we really have to talk about quarter time. It was, we were just terrible in that first quarter, and we really didn't get our game going. And there were a couple of things about that quarter time break. I noticed just before the quarter time break that Murray Davis was talking to Nixie, and Nix came out and he was calm as, and apparently what he said to the boys was, just forget that quarter. That's not us. Now we're going to go out this quarter. We're going to pay our stuff. And I think in past years he might have come out roaring, and a lot of coaches would have. But I think that was a very, very clever move. And I still wonder whether it was Nixie's idea or whether it was Murray Davis putting that into his head, because I did see him talking to Nixie. And the other thing is about that quarter time break is the Dawson. When they resumed, I saw him go up to Will Day, and Will Day had just been murdering us. He'd had 9 disposals and 6 clearances, and I saw Dawson sidle up to Will Day, and I saw him talking to him, and he cut Will Day out of the game, and not only did that, then he kicked those magnificent 2 goals, and like a real captain, a real leader. And like the boys were saying, we've got a team now that we can count on, and Dawson is an incredible leader. He's not like some leaders that scream, shout, and all that sort of stuff. He's a calm leader. He does it by actions, and I think I put it down to the fact of the coaching, where it just missed the fact that we were so terrible in the first quarter, and just said, let's get back to our game. And then secondly, Dawson led the way, and it was good to see. It was great.
Yeah, I think the conversation about whether it's Nicks or whether it's Davis or whatever is irrelevant at this point. We're operating as a collective. That's been acknowledged, I think, multiple times by multiple people involved with the club and the players. And to be honest, I couldn't give a rat's ass whether it's Nicks or the boot starter, to be honest with you. If we're getting the job done and collectively we're keeping a calm head and we're keeping focused and all the rest of it, Brownie, then who gives a shit who's making the calls?
Yeah, I sort of agree with you, but I do think to Macca's point, I do think there is a correlation between Murray Davis getting involved and just some subtle changes to the way that we're managed on game day. And whether it's a coincidence, we don't know for sure, but I do think, the fact that he's there, I think we're the better for it. And we are playing as a collective now, and the results are coming. I mean, the last 10 weeks has been unbelievable, and something that 10 weeks ago you wouldn't have seen the performances that we put up.
Well, we erased their first quarter deficit in about 12 minutes of football in the second quarter, and it was probably, big man, the most powerful quarter of football I think we've played all season against genuine opposition.
Yeah, that'd be close. It was just a complete reversal of the first quarter, wasn't it? We went from not being able to get our hands on the ball to pretty much dominating field position. Obviously that's when our forward line comes to the fore, because almost always they catch in, and they did, which was obviously got us in front at half time. It's a shame we sort of let the lead slip in the second half a little bit, but that second quarter, I mean, that they definitely spooked us. They came with a serious intensity that we probably hadn't experienced for quite some time, and it looked like we didn't know how to handle it too much in that first quarter. Plus, they were just winning the hard ball. They were dominating clearance, and it just seemed like we couldn't defend, and we're giving our backs a lot to deal with. But I think that goal from Fogg really steadied us in that last minute or two, first quarter, and once we got that bit of confidence right into in quarter time, it seemed to flow on from there. And it was exciting because we needed to respond, and we did. In previous years, I'm not sure we would have got that response. Not against a team like Hawthorn. I think we would have maybe eked out not a moral defeat, but like a defeat where we don't embarrass ourselves. Whereas we actually said, no, this is not happening, and we actually grabbed the win, which is it's a real sign of maturity. And like I said, there's a lot more to trust in this team than even the 2017 side, I reckon.
Shout out to Radical in the YouTube chat. Hey, Hawthorn fan here. Seriously respect Adelaide for that crazy game. Probably the best game of the round. Hope to see both teams play finals, because it most definitely felt like a finals game. I think it really did feel like a finals game, and I think that probably contributed to us just maybe not handling the pressure in the first quarter, because maybe Macca, the game the previous week, had been so much of a training drill.
Yeah, they were never a good game to go as a lead up to go into a game of intensity like this. You're much better off having a competitive game the week before. And you're quite right. I don't think our competitive juices were quite 100%. And the Hawks are a slightly different side to play than they're not a big team, and they around most of the field. They're a running team, and they sort of ran us off our legs, and we just seem to be. They were winning the clearances, and that's a big thing as well. But we just couldn't get a game going, and they are difficult to play. And I think, as you said, I don't think we were. In our minds, we would have thought we were 100% geared up, but I don't think we were, because you can't get jumped like that if you're really 100% tuned in. So, but the beauty of it is the fact is that you can actually have a quarter like that and then reset. I mean, in the past we would have had a quarter like that, and then we had three more like it. So what I really loved about it is to have such a bad quarter, but not only reset, but come back and dominate in that second quarter, absolute dominate. And made them look second class. So I think that makes me think this is a real team, and I think we can win finals. I do.
Well, and it was interesting to hear the comments about what happened at quarter time, and the focus on process and getting back to the way we play football and what we know works for us. And it really gave an indication of the belief that the players and the coaching staff have in the game plans that they have set up, and the fact that they recognise, and it was quite obvious to everyone watching, that we just weren't winning contested ball, we weren't winning the one-on-one contests, and they were getting the ball on the outside and getting away from us. and putting our backs under pressure, as Big Man said. So the ability for the coaching group and the playing group to just calmly refocus on what makes the Crows a good side, and the types of stuff that we needed to address, and we certainly did address it. And Big Man, there was no one more inspirational in the first 15 minutes of that second quarter than Jordan Dawson.
It's not the first time, Fiend. We think back to that Brisbane game in the fourth quarter where he basically won us the game off his own boot, pretty much. It's his scoreboard impact in particular. Like, we know he's a great mark. We know he's a great user of the ball most of the time, but he's on track to kicking 20 plus goals this year from a midfielder. Is pretty special. He's kicking clutch ones too. Like, they were clutch. They weren't easy at all.
No, that's right.
You know, and look, there was others, you know, obviously doing a whole lot as well to help get us back in the game. But you're right, and he's making a bit of a theme of it now this year. I think he's really coming to his own as a leader, and he has the ability to take over games, which not many do.
Yeah, no, he just has the ability to will us back into the game, and that's what it seemed like he was doing. He wasn't going to take no for an answer, and those couple of goals were inspirational, as was Isaac and a few others in the last. Gentlemen, let's just get straight into the nuts and bolts of it. Of course, Hawthorn didn't get a logo. Never mind. Crows 15-11-101 to Hawthorn 13-9-87. Of course, a margin there of 14 points. Could have been a bit closer. They missed a couple in the end there that could have made it interesting, but it felt like in the last 5 minutes we had it pretty much on toast. Let's have a look at the AFL stats first of all. Disposals, they had a lot more of the ball, 355 to 319. The disposal efficiency was above ours, 74 to 67. But inside 50s, we were 56 to 49 up. Our efficiency inside 50 was down 45% to 51. Marks inside 50, 11 to 10. Centre clearances 11 to 15. Stoppage clearances 28 to 33. Hit-outs 45 to 48. Uncontested possession 146 to 135. Contested possessions 146 to 135. Uncontested possessions 163 to 213. Marks 78 to 67. Turnovers 58 to 69. Tackles 58 to 64. When you look at that stat line, gentlemen, Macca, you would think that Hawthorn won the game.
Yeah, I mean, we did get smashed in the clearances. There's no doubt about that. And, but I will say this: that you know, thanks to Dawson and a couple of others, some of our clearances were very, very good and resulted in goals, which is it's excellent when that happens. What I did like, in spite of the fact we definitely got done in the clearances, and if we look at some of the blokes like Berry and then they look at Peatling, I think they were down on their games, and because they had got beaten to the ball first. But having said that, if you go to look through the stats of individual players, if you take out Cook, who was horrendous with his one possession, and forgetting the sub, and there's only one player that didn't get more than 10, and the highest possession getter was 21. Now that's incredible to in a game of such a contest to only have 21 as your leading possession getter. But that's because it was spread across the team, and so it wasn't actually, we were playing team footy. So, and I think every player put in except Cook. I mean, he just had one of those days, and but everybody could hold their head up and say they went well. And I think that's why we won the game, because we did have this good spread of players that were working very hard.
Yeah, I'd agree with that, Big Man. It seemed to me that it was very much a victory of structure. We just seemed to be organised and to be able to absorb them and make the most of our opportunities when it came our way.
Yeah, and I mean, look, one thing about those that stands out about those stats is the way in which their game contrasted ours. There was much more handball happy. We were much more in terms of the kick mark game. And those handballs, particularly in the first quarter, definitely unsettled us. They were cutting through us a bit and sort of scattering our defence too much and leaving too many holes open for guys like Gunston and such to have easy shots. Thankfully, we were sort of able to lift our pressure and lift our contest work, so they weren't able to get as many handball chains out of stoppage. And once we slowed them down a bit, it made it easy for our defenders to cope and get more intercepts and such. We had some periods of the game where we turned it over ourselves a bit too much. I think we kicked it to them way too much at times, but at the same time, you know, they're pretty good. They're pretty good defense back there, the Hawks. So that was always going to be the case at moments. But I thought our forwards actually, in general, played a really solid game. It was a mix of the talls and the smalls. They all sort of got it done in their own way. And I think also just a bit of star power. And I think that's going to the game. That was probably the one area I thought we might have Hawthorn. They do have some really good, bits of talent. But, Will Day is obviously one who was fantastic, particularly in the first half. But I think we actually haven't covered for genuine match winning power, and that sort of came to the fore. Filthy was great again. Dawson we talked about before, and Rankine of course, and Tex sort of wound back the clock a bit too, and so it was a bit of structure and it was a bit of contest work, but it was also just a bit of star power, which I think was the difference in the end.
Yeah, I think we pinpointed, Brownie, in the Melbourne game that the way to beat the Crows is to run at us, and I felt that's exactly what Hawthorn did in the first quarter. They ran at us. They didn't allow us to get set behind the ball. They messed with our structures a bit and then exposed our defenders to one-on-one contests, which they're not probably as comfortable with. And it looked at that point when they were handballing through our zones and changing lanes and really being aggressive with the handball that that Mitchell had worked out the way to beat us.
Yeah, I think they made us look. They looked like they were quicker in the first quarter, and that was basically when you've got a chain of handballs that are uncontested, you always look quick, and they did that to us last year as well. But I think that was on the back of we just didn't bring the pressure in the first quarter. It was basically it was like the teams swapped Guernseys at quarter time, because they brought the pressure in the first quarter, but by God, in the second quarter we brought the pressure, and all of a sudden we were getting to be able to use the ball without any problem. And they were, every time they did get a clearance, it was under pressure, and we were able to turn it over. So I thought the biggest difference was just that the pressure that we didn't bring. And I don't know whether it's what, like Macca said, we'd had an easy game the week before and we weren't quite switched on. But when we came out in the second quarter, we brought the pressure incredibly, and that enabled us to get control of the ball, and we started using it. In the first quarter, we were just dump kicking out of defence because we were panicking and not using the ball. But yeah, that second quarter was a completely different game, and that's what we've got this year. We've got the ability to, if things aren't going well, we've got the ability to reset and actually come back. Whereas in another year, we would have waited till 3/4 time. We would have come home in the third quarter and had an honourable loss. Yeah, but I don't think this group are happy with an honourable loss this year.
No, that's right. One person who isn't happy with honourable losses is Arab Crow, and to kick off our interaction this evening, he's joined us. Welcome, mate. How are you?
Good. How are you guys? How's everyone doing? Yeah, just want to say we're not a pile of shit anymore. Just the thing that I want to bring up is the dare from Matthew Nix and the coaching this year. We're definitely not a conservative team anymore. I mean, in the last quarter, we took Dawson out of there. We put Curtin in there. I mean, we put Isaac in there as well. And I think it was Barry in there. that would have not happened last year or this year. That's just one example, but there's so many where we've done things like that where I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Surprised he's doing that, not being conservative, which is very good to see. So yeah.
Well, it's a very good point you made there, Eric, about Curtin, because I reckon he had 6 CBAs. I think it was 6, and I think he had 3 clearances. I mean, this guy's got to be anything, absolutely anything. And like we've been loving him on the wing, but as you quite rightly said, the coach had the confidence to put him in the middle there in the last quarter when you're up, game's up for grabs. So very good point. Very good point, Eric.
That's the difference, isn't it? Like last week against the Port, it was sort of like, well, we're up a heaps. Let's experiment, and it looked good, of course. But this week, the game was in the balance. We were behind, and Nixie had the balls, but also the trust in Kurtz to say, have a go, help turn this around, and he did. He was part of that comeback. So it's exciting for him, and like he hasn't scratched the surface of what he could be as a stoppage player because. To be honest, probably post Christmas, he didn't even really train as a midfielder. He was looking at stoppage work and getting some tips and stuff, but he never really in the practice matches got a gig there. So you can't even say he's had a full preseason of that to train with the other mids in that role. And as he gets more comfortable with his body and his acceleration improves and everything, he could be really good in that regard because he's clean as a whistle and he's so good with his hands in close. And we know how powerful he is.
Well,
he's exciting.
Just to highlight what Arab said there, Curtin's had 7 inside 50s, 14 contested possessions, 7 ground ball gets. Where are we? 6 clearances from 19% CBAs, which were all in the last quarter. He was absolutely instrumental in that last quarter, and I think
he was.
I think you mentioned a really good word there. The word is trust. And it's something that I think we've been crying out for from the coaching group for, a number of months now, probably last 2 seasons, is that they need to start trusting the younger blokes. And we're seeing evidence now that they are trusting the younger blokes in these crunch situations. And, I guess maybe some of it is based around the available talent, but I don't think any of the younger blokes have let him down since he's entrusted them a little bit more, Arab.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's weird, but because we're not used to this. Yeah, and the other thing is that it gives us so much difference compared to other midfields. We thought that our midfield maybe not the best, but it's kind of one of the more maybe even up there with I would say Brisbane's because we have speed, we have silk now, we have size in there, we have everything you really need. The mix is there. And I just hope that they stick with it and they don't mess around with it and bring in Crouch or, I don't know, Murphy and just chuck him in there just before finals and then that will screw things up. That's my only worry. I just want them to keep it the same right now because it's so good to see it that way.
I just don't think, Brownie, that they can even consider bringing Crouch into this side.
No, and I think I just heard the Murphy word. I thought we'd agreed that word wasn't going to be spoken again on this podcast, but that's okay, Arab. I'll let you off just this once. But no, I actually, that's okay, mate. I've got the confidence. I thought two weeks ago, I was so worried that Crouch was going to prove himself a couple of games in the Sandful and get a call back. But I think it's another thing, like you said, Arab, trust. I think Nick's now finally trusts Berry. The Crows faithful trust Berry. He's given us a guy that can actually carry the ball. He can kick a goal from outside 50. He can take a mark. He tackles like a beast. He does everything that Crouch can do and also use the ball. It's just so much better. And I actually think, obviously, Nix has seen that. So I'm pretty confident we're not going to see him again unless we get a nasty injury or something like that. We've got a great mix, with Peatling and Berry and Rankine, and now bringing Curtin in the equation gives us that big-bodied sort of Bontempelli midfielder sort of type in there as well. It just gives us so many more options, and that's what you need in finals. So, yeah, I'm pretty confident that the pennies dropped. I don't know why the pennies dropped, but I think that Nix is finally starting to trust some of these younger guys, which is fantastic.
Yeah, I think the
just one last thing.
Oh, go on, mate.
No, go on. Finish up.
Go on. Your floor, mate.
I was just gonna say one last thing is that we are that team on Friday night would be let's say about 4 or 5 goals better with Rochelle in there and Max Michaelani in there. Easily would be 4 or 5 goals. That's the other point that I want to praise up. Yeah.
We definitely, I think we are missing Rash just for that extra polish around goals. I think we've managed to sort of deal with it pretty well, I think. And obviously a big part of that is having Rankine, who have just played pretty much almost permanent forward at the moment, which we had to. And he gives us that energy and spark around goals that Rash does. It's a shame, because when Rash is in the team, we can use, Rankine a bit more around stoppage and everything and just change things up, which we can't really do as much at the moment. Max is a big loss, but I thought Bond had a really good game on the weekend, playing on Dylan Moore. I know he was a bit handball happy in that first quarter, but he was getting his hands on it and he was pretty clean. And that was what a game to come into for your first game for the year. This is a guy who's played 7 games before that, and his first game for this year is a bloody hot, super intense finals like Friday night game against the Hawks. So I think he actually acquitted himself well. I agree. Both those players are. We miss them, and if we lose a game in the coming weeks, then you could probably point to not having those two on the park as a big reason for that. But at the same time, every team has injuries, and these guys are key to us. But the great thing is we've had replacements for a while now, guys who've been biding their time, like a Bond, who have deserved the chance. And unfortunately, it's been through injury that they get them. But I was always confident that they were going to step up if required, and I think we saw that with Bondy the other night.
Absolutely.
Bean.
He's just doing some running repairs, I think. But yeah, I would say with Michaelani and Rochelle, we're going to be better with them. Whether you can say it's 3 or 4 goals, I'm not really sure, because I think the beauty of it, if you've got a good side and a good list, like Collingwood have proven, 2 go out that are big names, 2 come in, you don't really notice a lot of difference, because we're getting, if you look at our stats, we're getting even performances across the board. We don't have too many guys getting 35, 36 possessions. We've got, between 14 and 21 across the board. But I actually think that's our strength this year. That's why if one player's off, it's not killing us. If Dacos goes from 35 to 17, then Collingwood bleed. But if one of our guys goes from 21 to 16, really someone else has picked up the slack. It's not really a problem.
Very good point, Brownie. I 100% agree with that. And it is a strength. And, now I've made that point, the highest possession gets 21 possessions. Yeah. That's incredible. But there were so many in the teens, that contributed to the game. Just on Crouch, I 100% agree. You just can't bring him into this team now. I mean, we've modernised, if you like, our midfield to what's required with players with. He's always got the desperation, but he hasn't got the pace. And he's a good extractor, but it finishes and it starts there and it finishes with that. So, yeah, to me, he's a player that I'd like to see us trade out at the end of this year, because we should be using younger boys to come in if the need is there. So really, I think he is superfluous, and I don't know whether you agree with him, but I'd be trading Crouch out of there. So make sure we don't use him.
Now, I will say this about Berry is that.
Go on.
Sorry, Finn. I was going to say, I liked some of his stoppage work on Friday night, particularly when he accelerates out of stoppage. It always looks good because he gets forward of the stoppage, and his kick isn't always great, but at least we're getting that run out of stoppage. But next time I'd like to see him just hold on those tackles a few times. Newcomb got away from 2 or 3 times, which I was surprised by because he's normally such a great tackler. like Barry's not a huge accumulator of the ball, so he's got to nail those tackles. And I think it was just a one-off, but I did notice a few times, like, geez, Bears, hold on to those, mate, because it caught us out a few times.
Yeah, there were a couple of times that Barry slipped tackles, and it was unusual for him. Usually he smashes them. In the first quarter, he just seemed to be a little bit off, but he wasn't on loan. Now, I've got to say, Brownie, that for the new kid on the block, your ability there to just pick it up while I was going to find a charging cable for my camera was exemplary. So cheers, mate, for just
he's back on it.
Just taking control of the podcast. And also we have J&M on YouTube. Now, J&M, I don't know whether people are aware, but the 2025 Crows logo is very much thanks to J&M and his efforts. So thank you very much, mate, because I love it. It's the best logo that we've had. And he's given us 5 Singapore dollars, Brownie, which is worth, what, 35,000 Aussie or something like that? 50,000 Aussie or something like that?
Yeah, it's about a quarter of a beer in Singapore.
And he says thoroughly enjoying the 4-person panel, guys. Awesome stuff. And J&M's always been a long time supporter of the podcast, and I'm very grateful for his efforts in and support for us. All right, let's move on to a couple of highlighted players, shall we?
So is Arab still there?
Sorry? No, Arab's gone.
Is Arab still there?
No,
I just want to say good call. Good to hear from you again, and glad you're a bit more positive this time.
Good call.
Just wait till the next loss. All right, now just a couple of blokes to highlight, and again, not necessarily the best because it was a very even performance, but I just want to talk about a couple of blokes. Isaac Rankine, first of all, 16 touches, 3 marks, 3 tackles, 3 goals, 1, 5 inside 50s, 9 score involvements, 11 contested, and 362 metres gained. I said at the beginning of the last quarter in the Discord on the Game Day chat that I was expecting or hoping, probably more likely, for a bit of Rankine magic. And isn't it nice that we've got a bloke, because like Eddie Betts was a wonderful player, don't get me wrong, but Eddie Betts I wouldn't put in the same category as Rankine when it comes to big moments. Betts would often fumble and carry on. Rankine is a big time player in my opinion, big man. What do you reckon?
Oh, that's a big call. You might be right. I wonder how many moments there were to be Eddie to be tested. It seemed like a lot of the time when he was playing for us, we were smashing teams or we're getting smashed a bit. That's an interesting one. I mean, Eddie, I loved Eddie. He was such a good player. His consistency was better than Rankine. But you're right, might be right that maybe Rankine has a bit more of that. I mean, they're different players, aren't they? Rankine's a lot quicker than Eddie was, and he's a bit more dynamic. Whereas Eddie was just so mercurial and just one touch.
I'm not sure whether Eddie could turn around 2.5 quarters of relatively quiet input into an absolute belter of a last quarter. I mean, he had 7 of his 9 score involvements, or 6 of his 9 score involvements were in the last quarter.
Yeah, maybe you might be right because, Eddie did have some games against good opposition where he got shut out of it quite a bit. And I'm not saying he was a downhill skier, but he definitely had some teams where he really struggled against the Hawks in particular.
And that's not to put Eddie down, by the way.
Right, he's easily a top 10, easily top 10 for us of all time.
100%.
Yeah, I would say you could be right. I mean, I'd like to see it in a finals game first before I sort of judge. But I mean, that's the thing about Rankine, isn't he? Like, you'd hate to play against him because he does things in all sorts of ways. He's great in the air. Obviously, Eddie was amazing in the air for his height too. But he just thinks differently to other players. He'll kick soccer goals when most players would pick it up. He did that tap on to Phil Thorpe that not many players would do. He just plays on instinct, and usually 90% of the time the instinct is right.
Yep. Look, it's controversial, and look, don't get me wrong, Eddie was a fantastic player and he did some clutch things for us, but I just feel like Rankine is the type of bloke that when Betts might take opportunities when they came his way, Brownie, but I just feel like Rankine is more the type to inject himself into a situation. If you understand what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I thought he generated some opportunities that last quarter, like that opportunity where he got the ball and fed Walker on his left, that little chip. Like he could have easily just panicked and kicked on his right into to no one, a dump kick, but he just took his time. He thinks through and he finishes. And that kick on his left off the tap from O'Brien to get things going was just like, that's just A grade. But I think
I'll just correct you on that. That wasn't O'Brien's tap. That was Meek's tap.
Is that Philthorpe?
No, it was Meek.
Oh,
it was Hawthorn's Ruckman that hit it there.
Oh, well, I'll take your word for it because I was a long way away and I was struggling to see the ball. But that was like a clutch goal. I think the way he feeds players and brings other players into it, like I thought it was 7 score involvements in the last quarter. You reckon it's only 6?
It could have been 7. Could have been 7.
That was just an incredible quarter. And like you say, he had by his standards, probably an average game in the first 3 quarters. But that's what champions do. They come out and they do it when it matters. That's the Gary Ablett kind of thing where you just come out and you just make a statement. And I thought, without him, we didn't win that game. So.
Oh no. Yeah,
I guess
I'll say this, Fiend. That I will say this about Eddie. Like, I know he dined out on some lesser opposition at times, but in that 2015 final against the Bulldogs at the G, he kicked 5 that night. He got us back in the game.
No doubt.
So,
and look,
I think that one thing about Rankine is I think he probably has a bit more in terms of the physical attributes to help take over games. Like Eddie wasn't. He was a bit, he's obviously a bit smaller, lighter. Not as quick as Rankine, so that's probably one thing, and that's why Rankine can play midfield a bit more than Eddie could. But I mean, I'm just saying we have to be careful because as excited we are about Rankine, geez, I think Eddie, I think we all look back on Eddie and just think, wow. But yeah, he had some big moments too. I think we can't forget that.
Yeah, I think my point is, Macca. I think my point is, mate, that we have players now that willingly are up for the big moments. And I feel like Rankine's one of them. I feel like Dawson's one of them. I feel like Thilthorpe's one of them. I think Josh Worrell's one of them. Don't you agree? And we used to always say back in 2017 that you couldn't trust the side. And I feel like those players and others contribute to far more trust in this side than the 2017 side.
I 100% agree. And you nominated the of my life, I just want to mention on Rankine that one particular goal, that left foot one, in the pocket. It wasn't just the fact that he got a goal. The ball was tapped down. Now, if he'd taken the ball, he would have been grabbed and he would have gone nowhere. But he was smart enough to push the player off with his right hand, then take the ball with his left hand, and then snap it with an acute angle with his left foot. Not many players would have thought to move the player as well. I mean, that just was incredible, that he can think that fast. So that's what I think when you were talking a comparison between Eddie and Rankine. Look, Eddie was a star. There's no doubt about that. But I think Rankine can go to another level because of that quick brain. It's just incredible.
Yeah, it certainly wasn't a comparison. It was more just how trustworthy are these players and how willing are they to inject themselves in big moments. And we were down at 3/4 time, we were a little bit down at 3/4 time and having fought ourselves back into the game, and you just felt like there needed to be a spark from somebody, and for Isaac just to say, all right, it's going to be me, and just have such an impact in the game in the last quarter, particularly in the first 15 to 20 minutes. It just smacked to me of a big-time player. So, forget about the comparison to Eddie. It's probably not a fair one, but it's more a commentary about how trustworthy and how we've got blokes now that will embrace that moment rather than be afraid of it.
Yeah, I mean, it's also like that goal that Thilthorpe got, where it was going to go through for a point, but Rankine's retrieved it and got it across to Thilthorpe, who could sock it off the ground. And that was just sheer brilliance, absolute sheer brilliance. And like you said, we've got players, and the ones, the four you nominated, those outstanding players, everyone. We do have to mention Joshy Worrell, and I saw in the chat that on the footy show said that maybe because it's his first year, maybe Worrell shouldn't get in the All Australian side. He should get in the All Australian side. They were talking about possibly Blossom. I see Richmond play. Blossom's a good footballer. Worrell's far better footballer. Worrell's outstanding. I thought he was outstanding again on the weekend. This guy is so desperate. He doesn't like to get beaten. And he doesn't get beaten very often. I thought he was bloody magnificent, actually. And obviously our best player, Dawson, a leader who, that second quarter, he started us in the centre. He kicked those 2 goals. I mean, and then Thilthorpe, as you say, I mean, he's Thilthorpe. There's nobody else like him. He's the unicorn. And, it is great to have players that they're stars, absolute stars. But they're not just stars that'll go well when you're going well. They'll go well when you're not going well, and that's what you really want.
Yeah, 100%. We could probably do without talking about the camp in the chat. We all know what's going on there. The other bloke, Worrell, is the one that I want to talk about because he had a stinky first quarter, was panic kicking and was very much, I wouldn't say crumbling, but certainly struggling under the pressure of the Hawthorn inside 50s. But he certainly turned it around after quarter time and became a bit of a rock, particularly in the last quarter there. Had 20 touches, 3 tackles, 516 metres gained, 5 marks, 7 intercepts, 6 contested possessions. There's some talk about Nick Vlauston being the All-Australian in that particular position, but I find that absurd when you've got a bloke playing in the top team against top opposition doing much better. And there's some school of thought to say that the All-Australian should be a cumulative type thing, like you got to earn your stripes. I call bullshit on that. The All-Australian is who deserves it in that particular year, and I think Josh Worrell hands down deserves to be in the All-Australian team this year.
Did Fiend just do a Macca, or am I imagining it?
What?
What did I do?
I'm pretty sure I think that was the boys were just talking about Worrell and All-Australian and stuff, and then the footy show and Vlauston, and then you just repeated it. But that's all right. Move on. We'll be all right. Yeah, look. No, I just...
Well, because I'm talking about what's on the screen, big man. I can't help it if Macca goes off on some bloody tangent and gets ahead of himself.
thought I'd rewind the podcast.
If you blokes would stick to the bloody script, then maybe, we'd have a cohesive show and people would listen to it.
I was talking about the 4 players you nominated, mate.
Jesus Christ. Continue, big man.
That's all right. You're right about those. His first quarter, he's going to get those. He's going to get those kicks around the body, those snap kicks out of defence, out of his game, because they don't work. It's so much. He needs to lower the eyes a bit more, or use by hand. And he's actually got a fair bit of toe, so I'd like to see him even just take players on a bit more than he does. But once he found his groove and a bit of confidence after the quarter time, he showed why he's so important to us. I mean, it's taken a long time. That was his that's game 50, was it, for him? I think it was.
Yeah.
There's players in his draft here, like Noah Anderson, who's played nearly 130, 140 games, which is just crazy, like the difference there. But he's had to work for it. He's obviously had a lot of injury problems as well. So it's delayed sort of his development, but we're getting the true was now, and he's a real talent. And him and Mark Keane have been so solid back there all year. Basically, I know Keane had a bit of a rough start to the year, and we were thinking that maybe he needed some time in the Magoos, but he's bounced back as well, and they just feed off each other beautifully.
Yeah. Now we got Harry Eastwood in the YouTube chat. Crows carrying on like they have already both hands on the silverware. LMAO. I watched Port capitulate to Geelong's training session today, and it should be noted that Port were on the up for how long? How many years? And how many grand finals did they make? And how many times did they tank? And how are they going right now? So thanks, Harry, for your input. All right.
Got that.
What else am I doing? Someone said here, who's that? Radicus Fiend. What are your thoughts on people thinking Vlossen should be AAF head of Worrell? I don't think we've covered that yet, so let's just talk about Vlossen over Worrell for a minute. No, we won't do that. All right. Let's continue. All right, so look, one of the unusual things about the game was the momentum shifts, and Brownie, you were there, and obviously there wasn't any wind. Was that just coincidental that all the goals seemed to be kicked to the scoreboard end, or was there some sort of explanation that you can come up with that wasn't apparent to anyone?
No, I'd love to come up with something, but it was just ridiculous. It was almost like there was a bloody 5-goal wind, and the flags were not even moving. It was just a perfect night for football. So why that was the scoring end at the northern end, I've got no idea. But yeah, it definitely was a thing. Yeah, it was like, if you look at the first two quarters, 5 goals to 1, and then was it 7 goals to 0 in the second quarter?
Well, we kicked 8 straight, so 7. I think it was 6-0, and we kicked one either side of the breaks. I think that's how it worked.
Yeah.
Something like that.
It was ridiculous, but yeah, there was no reason for it. It was just, teams got momentum and kept the momentum for the whole quarter.
Yeah, and I mean, we were headed, four times during the course of the evening, or 3? I can't remember. But I'll get my words out in a minute. It just felt to me like, even in the last quarter when it was like they were in front for the first probably 5-10 minutes, it just felt like to me that we had the game in our grasp as long as we could finish. And when Tex kicked those 2 goals, even though they had a couple of shots after that they missed, it just felt like we had the game in our grasp, Macca.
Yeah, I must admit, it was strange because it was like as if there was a 5-goal win, because I mean they dominated the first quarter, we dominated the second quarter, they came back in the third, and I don't know about anybody else, but I did think to myself, well, we'll come back this quarter, but then there's no logic to that. But it's just as if there was a 5-goal breeze going down that end, and. Yeah, and look, we worked our way to the lead, and it took a while, it took a lot of hard work, but we got there, and when Tex got those couple of goals, that we thought it's all over. And I know that they went down, they missed shots, but I still think that, even if they'd landed 1, even if they'd landed 2, they still wouldn't have won the game. So I think the game was over at that point. So I think we may have even mentally slackened a little bit. I don't know, because they lifted to get those last 2 shots. But because all that happened in about 2 minutes, actually. So 2 minutes 40 or something like that. But no, I think that I thought it was an excellent effort in that last quarter that we actually came back, and I thought we sewed it up. And we perhaps relaxed slightly when we did get to that position. But I thought we were never going to lose it after those 2 goals from Tex.
Yeah. All right, we've talked about Isaac and Josh, and we've also mentioned Geordie Dawson's ability to impose himself on the game and Isaac's ability to do so as well. But one player who I thought really came good, particularly after quarter time, was Riley O'Brien. He's having a career season, and I felt like he, even though the hit-outs didn't particularly highlight it, I felt like he had much more influence on the game than Meek for Hawthorn, and some of his tap work, particularly at stoppage, was quite decisive. One little flick over the back to Isaac that he missed, and a couple of other really good taps, and I just felt like he was far more effective. And Brownie, I want to put it to you, should he be in all Australian calculations, Riley O'Brien?
Probably not a question you would have asked me 10 weeks ago, is it?
No, but I asked you about an hour ago, and like we had this debate.
I do believe he's got to be probably. There's probably 3 or 4 guys that have got to be in the conversation. I think it's going to be hard for Brodie Grundy not to get the chocolates because he's had an amazing year. And when you see a ruckman get 39 possessions in a game of football, that's just that's insane. But I think, Riley's got to be in the conversation. I think his first few weeks, it took a while to get going. And then I think his last 10 to 12 weeks have been outstanding. And he's been probably marking the ball a bit more. He's been getting a bit more involved in the forward line. I think his kicking's got better this year too. He's actually hitting targets this year where he used to just bomb it.
Yeah, a bit more composed.
So he's got to be in the conversation. But I think, Gawn's had a reasonable year. I think definitely Brodie Grundy's probably got him, and I think Cameron has had a pretty good year. He's got to be in the conversation as well. Any of those 4, I'd say, would be deserving. But I think one he's from South Australia, so he's not going to get it. I mean, you look at the conversation in the eastern states about Worrell and saying that Foston should get it because he's got a body of work. A body of work's got nothing to do with it. It's about this season and this season
100%.
only. So Worrell should definitely be pretty much a lock-in, but I think O'Brien probably is in the top 2 or 3, I think.
Yeah, and irrespective, I think the influence that O'Brien has had on our return to form this season shouldn't be understated, because having a ruckman and tap work aside and all the rest of it, the amount of general play that he gets involved with now, sometimes decisively, like that in the last quarter when he got on the end of that handball and passed it to Tex. All right, it didn't hit him on the chest, but it certainly was to the advantage of Tex, and it led to a goal. And his ability to shut down Darcy a couple of weeks ago and get in front of those packs, I think having Riley O'Brien up and about and doing the things around the ground that we need a ruckman to do has really assisted us, Macca, in getting ourselves back into the frame.
Yeah, I remember, like in past seasons, you and I have actually, we haven't been overly kind to Rob, and we've criticised him because I think in past years, I don't reckon he was getting anywhere near the possessions he's getting this year.
No.
Like he had 18 disposals for them on top of his 43 hit-outs. I mean, that's a pretty good game by any ruckman. And he actually took 3 marks, and they were all good contested marks as well. So, what I like about Rob is the fact is that he's always been able to, except for against Witt, he's always able to get his head on the ball and tap it. He generally has been tapping it in the wrong direction. But this year, I think he's come a long, long way in self-improvement, which is, for a credit to the guy, that he's actually worked hard to become involved in the field play, and he's taken more marks this year. I reckon he's taken just about his bloody career before this year. So I think he, like in other years, we were saying it would be nice to get a good ruckman. This year, we're thinking we don't want to lose him. When the situation was his contract hadn't been signed, I'm thinking, please give him the extra year, sign him up, because too good to lose. So I've been very, very pleased with it, Rob.
Yeah. Look, there's a few stats here that you wouldn't normally expect to get from Riley O'Brien. 11 contested possessions. you had 8 clearances, and there was one other 8 score involvements. Now that's not what you'd expect from Riley O'Brien.
No, not at all.
And
No,
they're key stats. They're key stats. So I think he deserves all the credit in the world for turning his career around, in my opinion, because he was in danger of just fading away to being a good ordinary ruckman. But I think he's decisive, and I think he will be decisive come September.
Well, it's been proven by the fact, like the Essendon guy, Draper. I mean, the Crows were after Draper because they didn't believe really in. They wouldn't be after Draper otherwise. But I think O'Brien has really forced them to lose interest in Draper. Well, Adelaide are no longer in the chase for Draper. They've dropped out because they're happy with O'Brien. And
I don't think that's necessarily the case, Macca.
You reckon they're still in there?
Yep.
Well, I read an article that said that's a journo's opinion, I suppose. But somebody in the chat saying the same thing as you. Look, we may well still be in there after, but I think that from my point of view, in the past I would have said get anybody involved, but this year Rob's won me over, and his effort's been great, his improvement's been great, and I think the stats that you read out, they're astonishing, really. I mean, he would never ever in the past have been involved in things like that, never.
Yeah, from what I can gather, the reason for the continued interest in Draper is the potential change in the ruck rules next year, where they're going to stop the current situation of ruckman being able to take ground and grapple, and go back to a jumping situation, which doesn't suit O'Brien, and also the fact that Draper can serve as a ruck forward, with Tex on his. Well, I mean, who knows? Tex might go till he's 58, but with Tex, at the twilight of his career, they maybe see Draper as a replacement for Tex as a forward, and also maybe take some of the heat off of Thilthorpe as a second ruck. I don't know. Look, I don't mind. I'm probably more in Draper's camp than you guys when it comes to wanting him, but I wouldn't pay big dollars for him now.
No, I certainly wouldn't. I think Brisbane will probably go a bit higher and longer than we will, Fiend, because McInerney, their ruckman, he's got back troubles, and a ruckman with back troubles is not so good.
They'll probably out the side, I would imagine.
That's what I'm getting at. I think their need for it is greater than ours. So, look, I'm not saying I don't want him. I'm just saying that I've got a lot of faith in Rob now, and as far as Draper's concerned, I think he'll probably end up at Brisbane anyhow. So we'll see.
Look, big man, I think also Mark Keane deserves a lot of credit. It's always a little bit heart and mouth when he's got ball in hand, and sometimes you wonder whether he understands what game he's playing and whether he grasps the moment. And but you can't argue. Equal top disposal winner for the game, 21 touches. He had 8 contested possessions. He took 6 marks. Him and Worrell and also Nick Murray have formed and Geordie Butts when he was in as well, have just formed such a tight trio when it comes to guarding tall forwards, and he deserves credit.
Yeah, I remember when he showed up for his first training session after the whole, when Mackesy obviously retired and we got Keane in, and it was I think it might have been February maybe. And he was a bit chunky, like he was a bit overweight. He'd clearly been enjoying himself back in Ireland.
A lot of Guinness in Ireland.
But look, what stood out right away was that he just looked like a natural footballer, particularly with his kicking and marking. He didn't have that ungainly look. And I was like, oh, gee, this actually kind of surprised me, because we saw him at Collingwood, but we didn't see heaps of him there. And now that he's a lot fitter and he's playing more games, he's just going from strength to strength. He's still a bit vulnerable defensively. If he's not playing from behind, he can give away free kicks or get caught out of position. But that's still coming around. He's only just, he turned 25 earlier in the year, so he's got plenty of football to just play in and to improve that. A lot of defenders, like Liam Jones wasn't any good until he was 26, 27. So he's got plenty of time to improve that. But it's what he gives us on the rebound that I love, and not just the intercept marking, because he's such a one-take player. Like the ball just fits into his hand whenever he goes back, and takes marks. He never takes it in 2 grabs. And but his kicking as well. He takes risks. He's one of the few defenders we had that really does take those risks. And yeah, they don't always pay off. Like we saw even the other night. There's 1 or 2 kicks where it was like, oof, what was he thinking? But that's what sort of you get with the package, because a lot of the time they do pay off and they open the field ahead of us. Whereas like in the we think about the days where we had Talia and just Jake Kelly and such at the back, and they were great defenders, but they weren't good ball users, and they were very conservative with the ball. Whereas Keane changes things for us. He opens up, rebounds out of 50 that we otherwise wouldn't have, because he's just thinks on a different level than those guys, and I think he's really integral. I'm so glad that he decided to stay with us, because I think he would have been a really big loss, much bigger loss last year than a lot of people gave credit for.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think there's a reason Collingwood had a big go at him, and they could probably do with him right now, because they're struggling a little bit defensively. But the 3 of them together, and certainly when Max is in as well, they're just such a good unit. They have so much understanding. They know when to go third up. They know when to back off. It's pretty good. Dan Curtin, just to follow on from our previous discussion, was excellent. It was such an interesting game because our midfielders didn't get high possession numbers, and even Hawthorn's midfielders didn't get high numbers. We had their highest number was Newcombe with 19 touches. Will Day had 19, obviously went off in the last quarter. Nash had 17. So it wasn't a game where the midfield got high numbers. Their high numbers came off half-back. Eamon and Impey and Battle. D'Ambrosio was actually the highest disposal winner on the ground. But it was such a fascinating game because, and that's what I referred to earlier, Brownie, that it was very much about structure, and I just felt like once we were able to reset at quarter time, even though they came back at us a little bit during the course of the game, we looked far more organised once and it shows how much we rely on not so much contested ball, but making sure that teams don't get on the outside of those contests.
Yeah, I think the second quarter we controlled it. We didn't let them get on the outside. The first quarter they had that guy behind the ball and they were just building that chain of handball. But the second quarter was a very different quarter. So yeah, I agree. It was it was amazing though. I just couldn't believe how quarter 1 and quarter 2 could be so different. But the fact that we've got the ability to like have that quarter time break, have a think about it as a group, and come out and just play our game. It was really, like you said, you can actually trust this team for the first time for I don't know how long, and that's going to be great going into finals because we haven't had a team we could trust. I'm not saying I trusted them in the first quarter. I was like everyone, 20 minutes in, I was thinking, oh shit,
here we go,
the old pros again, and we're gonna. Yeah, I thought we'll stay in the game. We'll get 40 points behind. We'll come flying home, and we'll lose by 3 goals like we did against Freo. That was the last time I sort of felt like that it was against Freo. But this time we came out second quarter, and we just belted them and got back in the game, and we made a statement. And I actually didn't feel after the second quarter, I really never felt like we were going to lose. I always thought that we were sort of in control to some extent, and it was a bit like the GWS game. GWS, we didn't win it by a lot, but I never felt like we were going to lose. We seemed to have more control when playing at home. It's like we've finally taken control of our home ground, and we're not going to get beaten cheaply.
Yeah, absolutely. It's such a foreign feeling, I guess, for supporters, because even in our good years, we always felt vulnerable, Macca, right? And there always seemed to be a certain bit of riding our luck and being very attacking and aggressive and running forward, but always gettable on the other, going the other way. And I don't remember a Crows team this century that has the ability to put scores on. Like we erased their advantage in 12 minutes in the second quarter, but at the same time we stopped them from scoring. We stopped them from getting the ball. We stopped them from scoring when they did have the ball, and we forced turnovers. And it's a new side. It's a new concept for the Adelaide Crows. We haven't seen a team like this.
Well, it is new, the thing that's really, really new about it is we always had teams that maybe could score quickly, but they'd be scored a lot against them as well. But this team has got the power to power on some score and then stop the opposition from really coming back. We started the season off where we were just score happy and not worrying so much about the defensive side of it. But, that got tightened up and drawn in, and I love the way we're playing now. I mean, we're prepared to attack, but we're also prepared to absolutely defend to the limit. So we're two-way runners, and you have to be a good side, and that's what I do like about this side. In the past, I reckon though, if we'd been going well and it's got tipped on its ear, as you said, we'd let it drift out to probably a margin we can't quite get, and then perhaps make a last-minute rush and not get there. But no, I mean, we just snuffed it out very quickly, and we snuffed it out twice. So that's finals-type football. It really was finals-type football. And I'm glad we had this particular game. I'm glad we got into that particular situation, because that could happen to us in finals. And it was played with the intensity of a final. So from my point of view, I thought it was an excellent game, as like as a dress rehearsal for a final.
Yeah, and big man, I think the difference between past Crows sides and this one, when we've been up and about, is that when opposition sides have scored against us in the past, we haven't had an answer because we haven't really had a defensive action. It's been very much attack. Whereas you could see the difference in the game against Hawthorn and also against Melbourne, that all we had to do was tighten up one area of our game, which was ground ball, contested ball, and we were right back in it.
Yeah, and look, that first quarter was probably one of the few times this year where we've had a bunch of goals kicked against us in quick succession. In previous years, I feel like we have let opposition teams get runs on that have really cost us, and we just couldn't have an answer for it. I think they got 5 goals in the first quarter in a row.
Yeah,
that's very unlike us this year. Like that's the exception rather than the rule.
Well, we've not let. Three. We're the league's best in not letting more than 3 goal streaks, I think.
Yeah, and I mean that's such a great stat, and contrasts so strongly with how we've been in the past. Because I think as Crows supporters, we all know, even when we've been a good team, we've allowed opposition teams to get runs on far too much, and we just can't get the momentum back. So, like we've talked about, this team's got a bit of mettle about them. They got a bit more resolve than we've seen in the past, and a lot of that comes down to contest, but also just composure. And I love just the blend we have right now of competitiveness, but also and maturity, but also hurt factor on the other end. Teams, Hawthorn, like I think it was Mac or Brownie said, they got that 5-goal lead they had, that got evaporated so quickly. Yeah. And after that, apart from a little patch in the late third quarter, it was pretty much an arm wrestle after that. So It's a sign that it's a different Crows outfit these days.
Yeah. Now, Branny Saligo had probably the most damaging 15 disposal game I've seen from a midfielder for a while. He had 5 inside 50, 6 contested possessions, 6 ground ball gets, 4 clearances. But I just felt like, I feel like Jake's gone to another level in terms of his aggression and his attack on the ball and on the contest, and he's turning into a real bull.
Yeah, I think earlier in the season, like we've mentioned before, maybe he wasn't quite right because he didn't seem to be quite going at the same intensity. I thought last year he showed similar, but I think the last probably 4 or 5 weeks he's really back to going hard. And last week, I mean, I didn't see the game live, but last week I thought he was really unlucky not to win the showdown medal. I thought he was exceptional. And
why didn't you see the game
even
live?
this week?
You're an employee. Why didn't you see the game live?
Well, I was over in Melbourne with I was doing some volunteering in Melbourne. Can I say
volunteering at the Crown?
Or on the piss with the lads. One of the two. You can choose which. But this week I thought, he had a low disposal game, but I thought what he did was really impactful. And it's not just the possessions, it's the pressure. He's just constant pressure, the tackling. I just think he's a quality midfielder, and we're copping a lot of stick from the media for being one star short in the midfield. And, hopefully we might pick up one from St Kilda next year. But if we don't, even the addition of Curtin, if he can become, a quality midfielder, he's got the body to be, a bloody bull if we can get him in there playing. But I think the fact we're getting just even performances is actually, that's what makes us hard to play against. There's no one they can tag. They've got to play their game. Whereas we can tag Dacos if we've got half a brain in a couple of weeks and cut him from 35 to 20, and that's going to be a win.
Yeah. Probably the only midfielder that let their colours be lowered a little bit, Macca, was James Peatling. Probably not his best game. He seemed to have the fun balls. He seemed to overrun the ball, seemed to be a bit more wayward than usual with his disposal, although his endeavour was unquestionable as always. I don't think there's any reason to be concerned. I think everyone's entitled to a down game, right?
Yeah, look, I thought I think you did say it. You said his endeavour was normal, and I thought it's one of those games where you go for it, you don't quite get it. Instead of picking it up, you knock it on instead. And I thought his effort was excellent. I mean, he got cleaned up a few times, and he still gets up and has a crack. But he only got the 10 possessions. Now that's probably about half, or maybe not quite that, but maybe a bit better. But he normally is about an 18 possession player, and he's only got the 10. So, but that's also a reflection of the fact that Day was dominating in the first quarter, and that overall that they had an edge in the midfield. I think he, along with Berry also, I thought down, maybe not down as Peatling, but no, I've got total faith in Peatling. He'll bounce back. He will bounce back.
Yeah, I agree. Some bloke called Big Man in the chat has questioned, if Dawson goes down, are we cooked? Branny, what do you reckon?
If Dawson goes down, are we cooked?
Yeah.
I don't think it wouldn't be fantastic. Let's put it that way. I wouldn't be doing.
That's like asking Collingwood if Dacos goes down, are you cooked? I mean,
put it this way: if Dacos goes down, it impacts Collingwood more than if Dawson goes down. I think we're a more even side, like we've said today, and I think I thought Rochelle and Michael Annie might hurt us, but it hasn't really hurt us at all because you get guys that come in and they step up. So, you don't want to lose him, but I don't think there's only one player that I really fear losing for the finals, and that's Thilthorpe, because I think he just straightens us up, and he brings, if he doesn't mark it, he brings it to ground, and he's just such a presence. I think I would hate to lose him, but anyone else I think we can cover.
Yeah, I think it's a really good call.
Okay.
Just, I was saying to you earlier, Brownie, and I'd say to the rest of you, like that mark that he took in front of Barris, Mac, where it was just a clean one-on-one against an All-Australian defender, and he just straight out-marked him. Just shows the potential of the lad. He's only 23.
Well, they don't call him the unicorn for nothing. I mean, he really is a freak. There ain't too many like him. And in fact, I don't think there's anybody. That's why they call him the unicorn. But, like a guy his size, with the mobility that he's got, the ability to... his adjustment of the mark is superb. He holds back his body and then goes at the last minute so that he's at the maximum point and makes it very hard for a guy when the guy's that tall, and he's got very good hands. His timing is excellent. He's got the skills of virtually a midfielder with being able to kick on both feet. His reflexes are great. That goal where Rankine's just tapped it back in there, and he's managed to socket it through. I mean, that's a midfielder's goal, that one, and that's not a big guy's goal. He's just, well, I know you and I, we weren't necessarily saying Thilthorpe in the draft that year, but gee, by God, thank God we did take him and nobody else. He is outstanding, and while he's in our team, and while we got Dawson, and while we got all these other guys, I still think if they all stay intact, we have a real chance this year to get a flag. I genuinely believe that.
Yeah, Vardy, Gary Lyon's not on this podcast, so your request goes unnoticed. Look, and you mentioned a couple out, Mac, and we did have a couple come in. I thought Brownie Hugh Bond did a pretty reasonable job. Sometimes lost composure, gave away a couple of frees, but all in all was quite positive.
Yeah, he might have given away a couple, but I thought there were a couple of times where he actually showed composure as well. So you've got to give it both ways. That's
what she said.
I don't know what you can expect when the guy hasn't had a game all year. Like he's been
playing SANFL. Really well. I mean, that's a pretty high standard.
Yeah, there's not much of a jump, is there? No, I thought he showed enough that, if I thought the only couple that didn't show anything were Cook and Chase Jones. I thought, if we haven't got them on the side, we're no weaker. But I'd persevere with Bond because he's great, and if he's not in our best 22 in finals, he's a great bloke to have there as a backup because he can play the role he played, or he can be a hard tagger. He can, and I think he does have a little bit of composure. I actually quite like him.
Me too.
Well, wait. I'll argue a little bit with you about Chase Jones. I felt like he came on and did a bit of a job. He didn't get a lot of touches, but I honestly feel like Chase is almost the perfect sub come finals time because he can play a few different positions. And I didn't think he was, like, at no stage did I feel like he let us down. And I don't know, big man, how did you see that?
That Chase?
Yeah.
Yeah. Look, it's something that's, I mean, I thought he was okay. I mean, this was probably the least, from memory, this might have been the least amount of game time he had as a sub since he sort of rejoined the team as a sub, whereas other times we've had a bit of unfortunately, an early injury where he's sort of had a bit more time to shine. Yeah, I mean, look, with Chase, like, he's what he is. Like, he's a fantastic tackler. He's aerially really strong for a small guy, and he's a contested ball winner, but he's got very little in terms of evasive action when he gets the ball. It's all just one way, and he often gets caught because of it. So, I think we've already got some guys like him who have that similar desperation and intent that bring a bit more class to the fore, like Peatling and even Barry to an extent. I mean,
I'm talking about
he's
as a
one
sub,
where Yeah, but I just think to myself, well, you get the versatility with Chase, but I just wonder if we could look at someone else as well in that role, because I think that he hasn't hurt us in any way playing him, but I don't think he's had a huge impact as a sub either. And it's a hard gig. Again, he hasn't played as a starting player yet, has he? Since he's come back, so
no. And I wouldn't start him. I don't think he's in our starting 21.
Yeah, I wonder if we might have to decide at some point soon, because that's what 4 in a row now he's played as a sub. Like, it's probably not good for his football if he keeps playing this role. He probably needs either a full game at the AFL or SNFL level. So, yeah, I mean, I think I'm sort of with Brownie. I think he's one that we wouldn't hurt too much if he was to drop out and someone else come in, even if it's just to reward some good SNFL form. Whether that's a Schoenberg or a Pedler or someone like that.
Schoenberg?
I know
he's still on our list.
He had a really good game, Harry, on the weekend. But I'm just throwing names out there. I'm not saying they should. I'm just saying for a game like this weekend where I suspect we'll have a couple of changes unforced, do we just try and get as many players to get at least 1 or 2 games under their belt before finals, because we know injuries hit and they can hit quickly. And the more guys we have with some AFL touch and experience this year, maybe the better off we'll be. So I think Chase has been giving it a good go, but I think we have to decide next week. He's either plays as a starting player or he goes back to the reserves.
Well, I guess we're talking about Chase. Obviously, Max comes back in, and so then the question is it Chase or is it Brodie Smith? I don't think Brodie Smith's been terrible since he's been back in on the fringes. Macca, what do you think?
Well, I think it's you and I would probably we'd canned him at one stage and thought that's the end of him. But he in fairness, when he has come back in, I mean, he has done the odd dump kick, but I saw him lower the eyes a times. I'm pleased with that. And look, he's experienced as buggery, so I mean he has to be able to play at the standard because he's had so much experience in it. So, I don't want him in there permanently, but I do think that when you've got an injury bad, I think he's the man to bring in because he's been there, he's played in pressure games, he's played in finals, he's done a lot. So he's certainly not going to freeze. I'm quite happy with Smith playing at the moment with certain players injured, but I don't want him in there when it comes to the final thing if all our players are available. But sometimes you don't get that luxury. But you mentioned about Jones. Look, I think Cook was so poor. You just cannot let the guy play this week.
Well, can we just talk about Cook in a minute? We're talking about Jones.
Yeah, I was going to put Jones in that spot.
We'll talk about Jones and we'll talk about Cook later.
Well, I'd play Jones as a winger this week.
You'll see, we've got Laird coming in as well, Mac. We've got Laird coming in as well, Macca. So I don't know whether there's a spot for Jones in the starting 21.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you bring in and you still retain Smith, then you're going to have to do a bit of a reshuffle of players in terms of perhaps like Cumming, who played on a halfback and will move back onto a wing or something like that. But you're going to move players around. But if Jones is, look, I think he is a handy sub. He's not saying he's a star, but I think Big Man made a very good point. He's going to need a full game, and look, either going to play him at this level and against West Coast. It's probably a good game to do it. Either that, or you just put him back to the Bees. But personally, I'd play him this week against West Coast.
Yeah. All right. Big Man, Macca mentioned preemptively Braden Cook. Obviously struggled severely after not a bad return from a head knock. He's kind of was shuffled between a mid-forward role and a wing role, etc., etc. Didn't look like he could get himself into the game. But previously he'd shown some reasonable form, albeit not getting huge amount of touches. What do we do with Braden?
Good question, Fiend. Like we saw what he did against the Bulldogs before he met Rory Lobb's head, and then last week in the showdown in conditions that we said didn't suit him, but he actually competed really well and showed a bit of class as well, which we know he does have. This week he just couldn't get near it. The ball it was just dodging him everywhere, and then I don't know if he's getting frustrated or whatever, but it just seemed like he started getting beaten by Scrimshaw in the air and got led to the ball a bit, and he's just had one of those nights. Mac is right. Like it is sort of hard to justify selecting a guy who's had one touch and subbed off in a pretty important game too. So it does leave some doubts in the mind as to whether he's got it in him to be a part of our team in a final series. At the same time, I don't want to shatter the kid's confidence, and not to say West Coast are going to lay down the red carpet for us, but it is a chance for him to get some touch and some confidence if we were to say, hey, we know you had a shocker, butter up next week, we're going to give you another chance against the Eagles. So I think it could go either way. There's been a couple of times this year where players like Curtin or Taylor have had quiet games, but Nix has persisted and given them another go, and they've sort of rebounded and had a good week. Whether Cook gets the same luxury, I'm not sure that he's quite as prominent in their minds to be given that, but I wouldn't mind if he did. I can see the argument for both. Like Brownie, which way would you go?
Well, I would have thought if we're playing, is it West Coast this week?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, surely there's a couple of guys that you would think we're going to definitely rest. So if you're going to be toying with the idea of playing these guys and potentially with injuries, you're going to have to play them in finals. Why wouldn't you give Chase Jones and Cook a full game in the West? There's potentially, and we'll probably talk about that later, there's potentially a few guys you would think you would rest regardless of result. So yeah, I'll be giving them a full game and then assessing them after that. I think, like you said, one bad game, you write him off, you send him back to the twos, you ruin his confidence. He's not going to play again this year. Is he going to get another crack next year? You may as well give him a game against West Coast, against a probably easier opposition, give him the chance to get some confidence, because we need 5 or 6 guys in the twos that can step up in finals, and the only way they're going to be able to do that is if we give them game time.
Mate, what do you reckon?
No, I totally disagree. You cannot reward a guy who's had one handball game. Look, if you want to be a top
good handball though.
if you want to be a top side, you have to be ruthless. You do have to be ruthless. And so if I'm playing in the twos and I'm getting 30 possessions or 25 possessions, and Cook's got one handball, and he's got one handball for the whole bloody game, and you're going to play him again because you're going to be nice to try and play him into form? No. You got to reward the bloke in the twos that's on the edge. There's about 3 or 4 players that are right on the edge of getting into this side, and they are the ones that should be playing against West Coast. They are the ones that should be showing that they have got the ability to play it. Not a bloke who got one bloody handball. I changed it from the other one. It's a bloody handball now. I just thought it was the poorest effort I've ever seen from a Crows player. Poorest ever, and you can't reward it.
So he was in at the expense of Pedler getting dropped. Pedler has been accused of not getting enough of the ball previously, although probably showing a little bit more vigour around the contest than Braden did. So if you rule those 2 out, Macca, who are you bringing in? Because don't forget, we're 3 games away from final series. We need to nail that spot because Rash might not get back in.
No, look, that's true. And, you could bring Draper. Somebody suggested Draper. You could bring Draper in it because I think his form has been good in the twos. He got resolved when his form wasn't good. And Billy Dowling, I would probably play Jones and bring Billy Dowling in as a sub so that the guy can have a run. Now Curvis is another possibility. These are the guys that will be they'll go hard and they'll try because they'd want to be in the side. Pedler's had a crack. And I mean, look, they might bring Pedler back in again. I don't think Ped's actually throwed his spot up when he had an opportunity. That's just my opinion because he can play well. He can play well, but I wouldn't back him to always play well. But you know, I think Draper, Dowling, Nankervis, out of those three, and I'm not going to say which one because it depends how they reshuffle the side around which one comes in. Probably give Jones, and I'd retain Jones. And unfortunately for Cook, you can't have one handball and play.
I think, personally, I'm a massive Sid fan, but I think it's too late in the season now to bring him in. I would lean towards Nankervis. I think he's the most versatile. We can play him behind the ball. We can play him up forward. We can play him on a wing. And I feel like he gets involved more than Cook has been and can do some mercurial things as well. So he'd be the one I'd be looking at. And I would actually give him the West Coast game to get acclimatised, and then I'd actually play him against Collingwood. Because I think we need to decide that position, big man, in case Rash doesn't come back.
Yeah, and look, there was never going to be like a perfect replacement for Rash because he's just got that X factor and that goal now that others don't have on our list apart from Rankine, and he's had to sort of fill the boots. So, yeah, look, I think in an ideal world, because he's playing the current role, that Nankervis is the one. But he doesn't seem to be front of mind for the selectors at the moment. He had a pretty quiet game on the weekend too, which doesn't help. We're sort of chucking guys around. Like Cookie showed something and then didn't. Pedler showed a bit but then didn't. It's hard, it's a hard gig to play. And I mean, sort of like Taylor sort of held onto his spot because the others around him sort of aren't doing a whole lot. So yeah, it does feel like probably the one area of our team where it's like, well, who sort of fits in? Like we've got this depth, but no one's really said, hey, pick me. I got to stay in the team. I mean, Bond sort of did that this week, but that's obviously an offensive role. So, I'm curious as to which way they'll go. If you base it on form, it's probably Pedler based on how he played the SNFL on the weekend. I agree about Billy Dowling. He's sort of he's the forgotten man, isn't he? But he's sort of similar to Cook in the way that he can obviously play up the ground as a wingman, but also he's quite dangerous around goals. He's not as silky and clever as Cookie, but he's got maybe a bit more about him in terms of winning his own ball. And he's pretty crafty as it is. So he's probably one that I'd like to see, but it'd sort of be out of nowhere, wouldn't it? Because he's never really been in the frame at all. He's never really been part of like the Sunday teams or even the emergencies, which is always a sign that he's probably not in the mix. But we're running out of time here to sort of to figure it out because like Fiend said, we don't even know if Rash is going to get back in time. That knee could be worse than we first thought. We don't know. And we've got to make sure that whoever does play is actually going to have an impact because where the whips are cracking, you need star power, but it's also your bottom 4 or 5 that also can win or lose your games. And I'm pretty confident we have the depth, but I think we need to find the right players.
And Brownie, I think it's worthwhile spending some time on this audition because ultimately, whilst Zach Taylor looks fantastic with ball in hand, he only had it in hand 9 times. And I feel like if Rochelle does come back for finals, there will be 3 into 2. So you'll have Rash obviously coming back in. You'll have Rash's replacement, whether that be continue to be Cook or whether it's Pedler or Nankervis or whoever. And then you'll have Taylor. And if the person that comes in for Rash or comes in for Cook, if he gets dropped this week, does well, then I think that probably puts Taylor under a bit of pressure.
Yeah, I suppose it does if you look at pure possessions. I didn't mind his game. I didn't either. Yeah, I thought he did some really good stuff, and I thought he showed a lot of composure. I don't know. I've just got a feeling that he's the guy that we need to be persevering with. I don't know how many possessions did he have this week.
9.
It was only 9. Yeah, so yeah, not big numbers. Had a couple of crucial possessions, but yeah. It's a frustration because I'd love to see him stay on the side, but he does have to do more. But I think at this time of the year, he's been in the side for the last 6-8 weeks. I think it might be a point where it's just about getting too late to bring someone new in now. If we're going to do it, we're going to have to throw the balls in the air this week.
Well, it's not so much about bringing someone new in, but if we replace Cook, and that position is ultimately Rochelle's, but the Cook replacement does well for the next, say, 2-3 weeks, then and gives us more output than Taylor, then that's what I mean. Then it becomes a situation of Rash comes back in. Who do we drop? Taylor or Cook's replacement.
But then does Jones get the boot and Taylor just go as a sub?
Jones is already out because
he's already out.
Well, because Max and Laird come back in, so
yeah, okay, yeah, no, that's fair. Yeah,
I don't know. It's an interesting one. I don't think that position is settled, and it will be even if Rash doesn't come in for the first week of the finals. We have to have some output there, even if it's defensive output. I didn't see Zach doing a hell of a lot of work defensively. Cookie got absolutely cooked defensively, as you mentioned, big man. So, and that's I guess that's why I'm leaning to Nankervis, because of his versatility.
And he has got the X factor as well. He's shown in a few games, especially last year. He showed in a few games last year that he's got a bit of class, a bit of time. I reckon he's a guy that can make it, but it just makes it hard if you're not getting big numbers in the twos. It's hard to get that spotlight on you. But I think he's one that he's more capable of making the next step than most of those other guys that we're talking about. I think he's got the ability to be a high quality AFL player, but he just needs the opportunity, I think.
Yeah, I think that's good. Fair. No, I'm with Brownie there. Like, it's a shame he had a pretty ordinary game on the weekend against Norwood, because I think he was one of the emergencies for our Hawthorn game. So he's obviously in the mix. And look, maybe they'll say, who cares about how the Norwood game went? We still rate you and we're still going to put you in for Cook. I can see that happening. The thing about Nank is that he's playing as a forward now, which is he's been all over the shop. We tried him so long as a halfback intercepting defender, and then we put him on the wing, and now he's playing as sort of a pseudo defensive forward. But one thing he does have is he's deceptively strong for a guy who's pretty skinny, and he's great in the air, and he's surprisingly good at the ground level as well. So look, I really do rate Nank. I wanted him in the team from round one, and obviously he wasn't quite there in terms of the selectors' minds anyway. I think this would be if we're going to do it now, get him in, and back him in for the next 3 weeks, because I agree with Brownie. He does have it. Like, he's got that bit of extra class, and he just, when you watch him, you'll see like he dances around players. He's just got a bit of extra confidence in his game that some of the other boys don't. So, I'd back him in, even though he had a bit of a quiet one on the weekend.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think SANFL form only forms part of the equation now. I think it's players' attributes. Nank's shown enough at the top level to tell us that he's got the chops to compete at the level. So, you want a player to be in form, obviously, but SANFL form can be a little bit tricky at times. The game sometimes just doesn't come to you, and you get, for whatever reason, you're just left out in the cold. So that's probably, I think, our only real point of contention, that position on the field. I think, aside from that, I think we've got everything pretty much covered. We've got good cover down back, particularly when Geordie comes back, in terms of key position and also small defenders. The midfield is what it is. It's not jam-packed with stars, but good on its tries, and the forward line is, our focal point. But that ability to shut down that bloody intercept defender, and we've got to consider that it's highly likely, Macca, that we're going to have Geelong during the final series with Tommy Stewart, and their desire to want to rebound off halfback. We need a bloke that can compete aerially across half forward.
Yeah, look, you're 100% right there, Bean. And the way it's shaping, it does look like every team could be bloody Geelong, which is the one team I really wouldn't. Well, I suppose, it doesn't matter who it is. You're going to have, if it's Geelong, so be it. And if we look like it's going to have a home final. So if you can't beat Geelong at home, well, then you can't think about winning a grand final, can you? So, but you're right. They love to set up there. They put that Stewart in particular. They've used or so many times. And the last time we played him, I thought we actually covered him quite well. Last time we played him, I thought that was probably the best we covered him. Because in the past, he's had some magic numbers against us and bloody unopposed all the time. So, but Geelong are firing at the moment. So we really do want to have the players in the spot. And, you're right about that player. It's got to be somebody who can actually, and I think Nate could do that, to actually make sure that whoever they put, whether it's Stewart as a loose man who's usually or anybody else, that they just got to pay them so much attention that they're not a loose man.
Yeah. I guess the last thing I want to talk about the game before we move on is, Branny, just the composure or the lack of composure, I guess, at times that we showed when Hawthorn ran at us. And there were a few blokes that resorted to dump kicking, and we seemed to lose our composure and our ability to find a loose player just to reset. Would you say that that's probably the thing that they ought to be working on the track at the moment?
Are you talking about in the first quarter?
Yeah, but I think that's probably one thing that showed that we need some work. Our composure when teams are coming at us.
Yeah, I thought in that first quarter, the ball was just coming in so frequently, and we didn't seem to be matching up because it was coming back so quick. So we didn't have the numbers around the ball. When we did get it, even when we weren't under pressure, there was perceived pressure when we were dump kicking, and luckily some of those, like Worrell kicked one out that. Luckily, he got enough on it that it was outside of 50, and I think it was marked by, what's his name? The captain marked it. But I think that's the kind of thing we've been doing for years. When we panic, we need to have some strategies where we're finding a player. I think it's the first time it's happened to us for quite a while, and I just don't think that we knew how to handle it. In the second quarter, it didn't matter because we came out with a different attitude, and we controlled the ball, and it wasn't a problem after that. So Worrell's first quarter, I thought, was pretty disappointing, but his last three quarters were fantastic. So I was able to turn it around. But you're right, I think that's one thing we need to look at. The other thing, I think, as I said to you when we were having a chat before, was in the last couple of minutes of the game, we were just kicking long down the line, and we weren't even attempting to find a player to soak up time. And I think it's those small things in finals that matter, and we need to be looking at them.
Yeah. Macca, what do you reckon? I still think our composure, like Branny was saying, trying to maintain possession when we're under threat and, kicking the ball to 50-50s when the game is sort of there to be iced, we still seem to be lacking.
We did in the first quarter, there's no doubt about that. That was probably one of the things that got us into the problems. I mean, they were intense, and and we kept handing the ball back to them. But I think, look at the second quarter, our usage of the ball was excellent, and that's why we destroyed them. And then third quarter, even though that they were getting, I thought we just occasionally did the wrong thing, bombed it, and every time you just bomb it, that you give yourself a 50-50 chance of just going to get, something you're going to pay for it by, You've just got to raise those eyes, everybody, no matter what the pressure is, and try and get it to the advantage of a player, not just bomb it. And that's one of the things what we used to actually hound Smith about, the fact that he just bombed it all the time. And I can see your comment there, Fiend. Not very nice.
Oh, that's brutal.
Well, if you don't
Absolutely.
choose the right bloody microphone after 20 rounds, then I'm not going to bloody wipe your ass anymore, Macca.
Well, I've never let you touch mine anyhow.
And we're all thankful for it.
Well, I'm not the one that's talking about it.
Come on, hurry up.
No, I was just saying that you're right. Yeah, we didn't have a game where we used the ball perfectly all game. In the first quarter, I think we quite a bit, and we did too many kicks to nobody's advantage, and that's when we make it a 50-50 ball, and if you're not on, well, you're in trouble. But I think overall, even after that first quarter, and when we reset, I think that even if we didn't do it, the attempt was there all the time to try and at least try. So, I think we're getting better at it, Faye. That's all.
Yeah, I don't know whether we are, big man.
It looked a bit worrying, didn't it, in that stage during that game. I think partly, Sam Mitchell's a very good coach, isn't he? And he obviously saw that what our weakness is, and their pressure was immense. They couldn't bring it the whole game. So, and I think we sort of figured it out as the game wore along. Hopefully we don't get exposed like that too much in the final series, as much as the pressure is obviously going to be ramped up. I think, I'm sure we'll talk about Miller soon, but he's one where he's,
we better, or else we get lynched.
Very. The comment section's been asking for a while now. Look, him and Keane are two. I think I still want to see a bit more from Hingy. I think he had a better year last year than he's probably one of the few that's gone a bit backwards or stagnated this year. He's still tough as teak and everything, but I just feel like he's one where when he's on song, his ball use coming out of defence, even under pressure, really gets us going in terms of moving the ball quickly through the corridor, especially. Right now, he sort of feels like he's just not quite hitting his straps. He's probably one that we probably need to lift back there. But and while we talked about it earlier, he's still got to keep working on that, because when he is susceptible when you come at him. He does panic a little bit, so he's got to figure ways around that. But I definitely think it's a weakness of ours, but we've got enough strengths. But I'm hoping that can negate those issues.
Well, it feels like the way we'd negate those issues is to strengthen up on ground ball. I'd like to see us have a little bit more composure, just when we recognise that teams have got a bit of a run and we can't win, and we're just losing that contested ball, that when Worrell/Keane do get hold of it, that we have a hinge and I think we probably lacked a Laird, to be honest with you, on Friday night, just to calm the farm a little bit, because I think he could have been a good outlet for them. But we need a hinge or another small defender, maybe a Michaelani as well, just to calm the farm. I felt like watching Worrell bloody boot it back 40 metres straight to them gave me Tom Stewart flashbacks, and I didn't like it. So, all right. Now, is there anyone else to talk about? I can't think of it. Oh, maybe someone. I don't know. How about we talk about Wayne Miller, big man? He played all right.
He was good. I actually had him BOG in the first half before. Not BOG, but close. Dawson obviously took over that second quarter, and Rankine went nuts in the fourth. But Yeah, he was super, and that's been a thing now for quite a few weeks. I think earlier in the year he looked a bit out of sorts. He was obviously low on confidence just purely because of lack of footy and the injury and everything. But even his kicking wasn't quite up to snuff. But his kicking has been elite coming out of defence in the last month or two. He is now actually hitting targets up forward as well, which is when he's really dangerous because he's one who does lower the eyes. And his body work defensively has also improved. He was I think he looked a bit easy to play against earlier in the year, but right now he's actually a real bull back there. He's so strong over the ball. We know when he gets it, he's so hard to tackle, and even that's improved. He was getting caught earlier in the year. He was actually getting caught holding the ball a few times. That's not happening at the moment. He got caught once on the weekend, but that was unlucky. He got eye gouged or something during the tackle, but he was a bit stiff. But
he did.
Yeah, but he's looking more like the player. And you brought him up, Fiend, a couple of weeks ago, and we talked about him. And then last week we talked about him. He's consistently playing well now, and this is the form we wanted. This is what we wanted from junior, and he's peaking at a good time of the year because he's one we really need to fire going into the finals.
Yeah, 100% agree. Okay, anything you blokes want to raise before we move on to Macca's 5 minutes of fame?
Nope.
Oh, wow. Shit. Okay. Obviously a really good result. Oh, here we go.
I didn't know whether to bring this up when we talk about selection, but I'll talk about it now. Tex. Like, I actually...
Let's talk about that at selection.
But this is not so much for the West Coast game. This is actually going forward. We talked about earlier, I reckon about the Collingwood game, we were talking about how this is his last year. And we said he's showing the signs of someone who's starting to... time's catching up with him. But I'm not so sure anymore. Look, if we won the flag, I reckon he would retire. He'd do a Shane Crawford. But, chances are we don't win the flag. So the option would be there. And I don't see how we don't. We don't sign him up for one more year. He's playing really good footy. His agility on the weekend was as sharp as I've seen in a while. And he's impacting the scoreboard. I think he's become a bit less selfish in the last 1 or 2 months. It felt like earlier in the year he was constantly going for goal, but this year, recently he's starting to amp up the goal assists and lower the eyes a bit more. And, I think another thing is too, like, if there was someone in the reserves who I was like, he's taken the spot of or hindering the development of, then I'd be more concerned about retaining him. But we don't really have someone like that. I know Toby Murray's there, and look, but he's a ruck forward type, and he's still not. We don't know if he's going to be an AFL player just yet. And Tyler Welsh has got a long way to go still too. So, and Burgess is probably the only other one. And he's a 29-year-old. So, I'm just thinking, like, I don't think it's going to hurt our development going forward until we find someone that we could actually put in his place. So I'm thinking, do you think he plays on? Like, did we sign him for another year? Because I didn't think we were going to do that 2 months ago.
Macca, I'm happy with Tex as long as Tex takes responsibility when the ball's in his hands. So I don't want to see any of this passing off shit. What he did in the last quarter, kicking those 2 clutch goals, is exactly what he's in the side for, and it makes up for him being a bit of a defensive liability because he can do some magical things, but he's got to take those opportunities when he gets them. And I think while he's doing that, he's worth his weight in the place in the side. But once he stops doing that, then he's not worth anything.
Well, I think that's very accurate what you just said, Fiend. And at the moment, I thought that on the weekend, I saw it the same way Big Man saw it. The way he got those 2 goals in particular at crucial stage of the game and just threaded them through. I think, quite frankly, I didn't think he's lost anything at the moment in terms of the way he's playing. He's never been great for speed, and he hadn't had any speed for a long time. And I think his brain is working just as well. Your point's right. He does have to kick goals or give it to a teammate, and but preferably kick it himself if he's got the opportunity. I certainly would give him a contract next year, because at this stage I think he justifies it, and I think that. But if it ever gets to the stage where even if he does get a contract next year, if he becomes a liability, he will be a bit of a defensive liability there. So you're weighing up his potential of scoring goals against that, and if he is scoring the goals, so be it. And I'd certainly give him another year and see how it goes.
Granny, what do you reckon?
Yep.
Yeah, I'd definitely, if he wants to go around again, I'd be on board. But I think on the basis you only pick him if his form's good. He's a great person to have as a backup. So if we lose Filthy or Fog, he's a great person to come in because he commands that big defender. And like you said, I want to see if he marks the ball within 50. I want to see him not even think about, unless there's a really easy option. I want to see him just turn around and just focus on kicking that goal, because that's his strength. He's still got the kick to kick a goal from 50 comfortably, and those two goals, like in previous years, he would have passed off one of those two, and it would have turned to custard. But he took the responsibility, and that probably won us the game. So I'd definitely have him, but he's got to be performing. I wouldn't pick him every week if his form's not there, but he's a pretty good backup if one of the other guys goes down next year, for sure.
Yeah, I think I go along with that too. In his post-match interview with the lads at Fox, which I thought was epic, and a really good insight into his mindset. I think he's finally come to terms with his retirement, or the prospect of retirement. I don't think that was necessarily the case last year. But I think he will accept if his time is up, or if the coaches deem that his time's up. And like I said, I just feel like as long as he continues to take his opportunities when they present themselves, and he doesn't become too much of a defensive liability, I think he's still got a spot. There are some things that he does that there are not many other players in the league can do, even at his age. Like those two bombs that he kicked in the last, that's a 5% of the league can do that, big man. So he's clearly still an asset to the team.
Yeah, even that gather and the little pivot he did at centre half forward, before kicking inside 50. Like I saw that and I thought, geez, he's 35 and he's still doing these things. Like he's obviously a professional outside the club in terms of getting his body right, and he's we'll talk about potential rest this week, but it was just exciting to see that, because I thought, geez, he still kind of got it. And even that goal he kicked, he sort of struggled for range this year, but then he slots that one from outside 50. So I mean, it's like I said, I think earlier in the year I would have said no. Now I'm like, I think he does.
Yeah, it doesn't mean we have to pick him, but I think he's worth a squad spot.
No.
All right. We've done that to death. We're on 2 hours, so let's go on to Macca's results for the weekend, shall we? Macca, you're all ready to go?
Oh, rare, mate. Rare.
All right. Thursday night, 19-8, 18-132, Bulldogs absolutely destroyed the Giants, 6-8-44.
Pathetic effort by the Giants. I know they didn't have their captain Toby Green for just another undisciplined act. It's ridiculous what he did. No, he was a shattered coach, and he just summed it up well. He said they were just belted in the contest, and that's exactly what happened. One side went flat out, the other side didn't. Simple as that. And the Giants now, I reckon they'll miss the finals, I reckon.
Big gap between the best and the worst, the Giants. And then we had Melbourne giving the Eagles a touch-up, 21-13, 139 to 8-8-56.
Yeah, the Eagles competed well for the first half. I mean, I think 22 points down at half-time, but they were competitive. Gorn took over in the third quarter, and and that was the end of them. They just built them off the park in the second half. And McQualter, after the game, he was another shattered guy talking about the lack of.
Yeah.
It was a feeble effort after.
Okay, we don't care about that. All right, the Sun 16-11-107 also smashed Richmond 2-11-23. So shocker.
Yeah, back in their fortress, they just took their revenge for that when they lost to the Tigers earlier in the year. Just built them off the park. Anderson Rao, dominant.
Yeah. Sydney 9-14-68 made harder work than you would have expected against Essendon 7-12-54.
I don't think they're much chop as a team at the moment. I don't think Cox has really got them really playing very well. Grundy was outstanding, absolutely outstanding. And he's also got Goulden playing superbly. Yet they're playing an injury-stricken Bombers with 17, 18 players out. By a few points, 14 points. So not good enough. I think they go very ordinary.
Yeah. I mean, once you're out of the finals contention, Macca, I think form's a bit hard to gauge, to be honest with you.
Well, I think they're mathematically still in the finals hunt. No, they won't get there.
No, they're not. They've only won 10 games. It's only 3 rounds left.
Well, they can't do it.
Yeah, exactly. The Lions had a really good win on Saturday night versus Collingwood, 14-8-92 to 10-5-65. Macca, I've been saying for weeks Collingwood are eternally gettable, and I will double down on that at the moment. They're struggling.
Lost 3 out of 4 now, and it was only a point in at half time. It showed they're the real deal. If we're going to win a flag, they're the team that we're going to have to beat to get there, I think. But because they've got good players all around the ground, and McCluggage and Dunkley, Neil, it's a bloody good midfield they've got there, and they've got plenty of good backup as well. They found a really good young forward in Morris. He kicked 6 goals, outstanding. And I don't think the Magpies aren't going well enough to win it.
Yeah, on current form, they're not. Mick, I'm locked out of the chat. Can't join the lobby. Sorry, mate. I'm going to have to deal with that after the podcast. Next was today. We had some innocuous games, really. St Kilda making very hard work of defeating North by 9 points, 11-12, 78, 10, 9, 69. Yeah,
this is a battle of the not so goods. The interesting thing for me just watching it was there was one curious thing. I mean, still the captain was made the sub. That's only the 4th time it's ever happened in the history of the AFL.
This is also Rans. We don't care about that.
Yeah, but Rankine Miller, he was again really, really good, outstanding.
Yeah, the Cats destroyed Port 23-15 to 9-11.
Yeah, bloody O'Reilly pulls out again. The game cost me my bloody dream team win, bastard. Holmes and Smith, they were outstanding for Geelong. Stewart, I think he's. Did you see the incident with Stewart where he leapt and he took? It's an interesting one. I'd certainly give him games, but I'm not sure he will get them. Not sure.
I don't know. I didn't see it. And the last game, Carlton put up a good fight, but Freo got over the line in the end relatively comfortably, 15-4-94 to 10-7-67.
Yeah, well, Free actually looked in a bit of trouble at half time. And they got a bit closer to that 3/4 time, but then they really let quarter. And they've got some good forwards. They've got Tracy, Amos, and Voss up forward, and they've got targets to get to, and they've got a good midfield to get it down there. So they'll definitely be playing finals, and they're going to be one of the top. That's it.
You've dropped out completely now, Mako. Anyway, all right, let's move on to the Premiership ladder. And who would have thought this, gentlemen? At the beginning of the season, Adelaide Crows on top of the AFL Premiership ladder. Even with Collingwood on 60 points. Would you have thought that, big man?
No, definitely not. And it's funny how your expectations change. Like the start of the year, we just wanted to make finals. We were happy making a final, maybe winning one.
Yep.
And then our expectations like, oh, actually, shit, I think we could challenge for top 4 here. And now it's like, oh, we got to finish. Geez, if we don't finish top 2, then maybe it's almost a failure. Your expectations change as the season unravels, and destiny is in our hands in terms of where we can go from here, because obviously we have a top spot and our percentage is so good, so it's not really going to come down too much to that. But if we do drop a game, and obviously the most likely game that would be the Collingwood game, then we leave it up to chance. We're relying on teams not beating other teams, and that never works out. We know as Crow supporters, even going back to 2008 when St Kilda and Essendon played each other. So, yeah, I think that at the end of the day, I still think a top 4 spot would be a great result, but it's hard not to think that home ground advantage for a qualifying final would be so huge for us, and yeah, it's up to us. We've got to beat North and West Coast, and if we lose to them, then it'll be a disaster. But that Collingwood game really stands out now. I just wonder, Fiend, like we talked about going to the Hawthorn game. You and I both had doubts about us being able to get up for that game because of the consecutive 6-day breaks and the wet game against Port and such. And it looked like that, didn't it, early on? But then we actually ended up winning. Like, are we going to actually have a game where we don't win? Like, I think we've won. We haven't lost since the Hawthorn game, which was before the bye.
12 out of 13 we've won just about.
Yeah, we've now had our longest winning streak at Adelaide Oval ever, which is a fair achievement given we won a lot there in 16 and 17.
Yeah.
It's like, are we due for a down one against Collingwood? Like, I feel like that's a game where Collingwood are vulnerable at the moment, and our boys should just be wanting to absolutely just get. That's the final monkey, isn't it? Really, like even Hawthorn was the last one. We got them off the back. Just Collingwood's the last. We just can't seem to beat them. And if we can win,
genuinely, Collingwood are the last. We've knocked over so many monkeys this year. And Collingwood is pretty much the last monkey, apart from Collingwood at the MCG probably. But just beating Collingwood
and Geelong,
just getting over Collingwood, would be a huge monkey off the bank.
It doesn't matter where we play. We always turn up against them, but we never beat them. Whether it's at the G or it's Adelaide Oval, like Dacos, killing us. We should have won that, but Dacos killed us, and then Jamie Elliott killed us that night a few years ago. And last year, we had that game, and then we let them slip back. So it's going to be a real mental battle more than anything, I think, because I actually can back us in. I think, look, as much as Collingwood aren't going great at the moment, they're still a very good, well-drilled team. They are vulnerable. But it's that won't really count for much because our players aren't used to beating them. And I'm sure we'll be in a position again to win that game. And this time we've actually got to get it done. And I trust us more now to do it. But like I said, we haven't lost in so long. It feels like you're due for a loss at some point.
I don't subscribe to that. You may as well keep winning. You just may as well keep winning. You go into every game. You go into every game to win the game. So, I tipped against this last week just because I thought we might be a bit fatigued. But I don't subscribe to we need to drop one. And
totally,
I just feel like at some point we're due for a flat one. Hopefully, it was just that first quarter against Hawthorn, and we're back to where we want to be. But yeah, if we win that, we finish top. If we don't, we leave it up to the footy gods, and the footy gods are very rarely kind. So it's going to be a huge game.
Oh, 100%. And I feel like the Hawthorn game had a certain mental aspect to it too, in terms of getting a monkey off our backs, because they'd been a bit of a bogey side for us as well, and I think that might have contributed initially to our performance early. Look, I just think at this point of the year, you go out to win every team. We might have a flat spot during the bye, big man. We might be a bit down that week at training.
The only thing about that Collingwood game, unfortunately, it's a 6-day break coming out of Perth versus Collingwood, who's going to have a 9-day break. So that's a bit unfortunate. But
Yeah,
this
but
team,
we got 9
our team
days
just
going
keeps,
into
we butter
Perth,
up every
though.
week, don't we? So I got to the point where I got no real reason to doubt us anymore, and it's high praise because I tend to doubt us a lot. So
We got 9 games going into Perth. Stats will show you that it's not the game after the short break that's the problem. It's if you have 2 consecutive short breaks, it's the second game that tends to be a problem. Anyway, let me get through the ladder, you blokes.
sorry.
Yeah, so Crows and Collingwood on 60 points. Adelaide in front, on top for the first time since, I'm going to say, 2017. Brisbane on 58 points. I felt like that was the Brisbane of last year. It's probably the first time I've seen them, Brownie, play with as much ruthlessness as they showed in the back end of last year.
Yeah, the timing isn't fantastic for them to roll into form. But yeah, they look ruthless. They've just got their midfielders just use the ball so well. Not saying that they're not beatable, but yeah, I think they tend to give the suggestion now that they're more of a threat than Collingwood. And yeah, Collingwood might pick it up, but I think Brisbane have built, and I think Brisbane and Geelong both have built well, and Collingwood having a bit of a 3 out of 4 losses the last 4 weeks. That's not Collingwood really. So yeah, I think we've got them at the absolute best time to get that monkey off our back for sure.
Speaking of monkeys, Geelong I've factored in Gold Coast beating Essendon by 60 points. You'd think it might be more than that, but I've just factored it in for the sake of reading this premiership table. So assuming that Suns also on 56, Fremantle also on 56, then we have the battle for 8th between Hawthorn and Giants on 52, and Western Bulldogs outside the 8 on 48, a game behind. So I don't know, Mac, my predictors have Hawthorn missing out at this point.
Yeah, look, I think whether it's them or one of the other teams, I just think the Bulldogs are going to make it in that 8th team. I think that they're playing very good football at the moment, really good footy, and not good enough to win a flag because they've got excellent midfield, excellent forward line, and then they're vulnerable down back. That's their weakness, and that's when you get into finals, that's where you get caught out. But no, you might well be right there. Got I said Giants earlier, but I think you're right. It's really Hawthorn. They've got 3 top 8 teams, haven't they? If I'm right.
Yeah, they got Collingwood, Brisbane, and Melbourne. They got to win one of the Collingwood and Brisbane games, I think, to be safe.
I think you're right, and I'm not sure that they're capable of doing that. So, yeah, I mean. They won't beat Brisbane, that's for certain. And, you know, Collingwood, if they get their act together, well, they're hard to beat, obviously, we know. So, yeah, they have a big chance to miss totally, and the Bulldogs take their place.
Yeah. Out of the race, Sydney, Port, Melbourne, Carlton, St Kilda, Essendon, Richmond, North and West Coast, we don't care about them.
We don't.
All right. A couple of minutes left. If anyone on the chat wants to have a quick say, let's talk quickly about the West Coast game. Won't spend too long on that because you would imagine it would be a walk in the park. But I guess the main question is, do we rest any more players? Tex being the obvious one, and if we do rest Tex, Brownie, do we replace him with a like-for-like tour, or do we try a different configuration just as a bit of an audition in case?
Well, I don't think we have a like-for-like. So I think, yeah, if we're going to give him a rest, and I think surely we give him a rest, there's no benefit in taking him to Perth. Then, yeah, that's an opportunity to try, I suppose, a smaller forward and just see how they go. But yeah, there's not really anyone knocking the door down in the 2s. That's like Burgess, we've been there, we've done that. Yeah, I don't think there's a point. So I'd try, yeah. And then Curvis, that's an opportunity to bring him in, or any small forward. But I just don't see the point of taking Tex over there. I think it would be ridiculous. If they're worried about getting him to play his 300th in the last game, why not play your 300th in the first final in front of a home crowd?
Agreed. Large they, them?
Non-binary big man. Look,
no, big them. I think it's is the correct term. Big them, is it?
Sorry. I guess so. I don't know any these days anymore, Steve. Look, I'll throw this out there because it's like I'm sure I get a lot of people disagreeing with me because we don't really none of us really rate him per se, but
I disagree.
It could be. I haven't mentioned which player yet. We potentially could look at, and this, I think we could look at playing Burgess instead of Tex this week. And
Right.
there's two reasons for that. One, because it maintains our forward structure and it gives Tex a rest. And the second one is Burjo's actually been in really good form this year in the SANFL. Now, I don't want him to play in the AFL team against better opposition and not in the finals either. But as a sort of 1.1 sort of like bit of a reward for his form in the SANFL and encouragement. And number two, just in case we have a disaster with our forward line, if he's required, then at least he's got a little bit of AFL under his belt this year. I think it's something we could look at because I don't think we have, because Toby Murray's not ready and Welsh is definitely not ready. So unless we rest Tex and then go a smaller forward line, I'm not opposed to actually playing Burgess for the one game. Just saying to him, as long as he knows it's just the one game and then Tex is back in for the Collingwood clash.
Macca, are you going to tell him how silly he is, or is it going to be Brownie, or is it going to be me?
Sorry?
Are you going to tell him how silly he is? Are you going to tell him how silly he is?
I was going to tell him how silly he is, but I've had a little think about it, and maybe he's onto something there. Because it retains the structure. It just keeps the structure the same. But and also if anything happened to Rob, you got to take Rob off. You got to sacrifice him to go into the ruck. No, I don't think. I thought it was stupid with that first comment, but the more I think about it, I think it's not too bad.
You should have gone with your first instincts, Brownie. What do you think?
I did say previously we've tried him and it hasn't worked, so I don't really see the point of playing a guy if you're not going to play him in the finals for structure when there's more of a chance that we're going to have to play one of these small guys if we get a couple of injuries, and you may as well give as many of these small guys a run as you can. Especially if you want to get guys like Rankine and potentially like a Dowling or whoever, I just think give them a go because they're more likely to be required when the whips are cracking in the finals. But I understand big man's philosophy, but I don't think the structure really matters against West Coast, to be honest.
Well, I would argue that it doesn't actually hold our structure because Burgess and Tex are two completely different players. That don't. Burgess does not offer what Tex offers, but Tex is a lead-up player who provides you with inside 50s, and Burgess is a poor man's Riley Thilthorpe. I don't see that there's any benefit at all from playing Burgess whatsoever, and I think it's a perfect opportunity to put someone like Nankervis in. To provide a point of difference and just see how the two forwards go. Thilthorpe could kick 35 goals against West Coast because Tex isn't there, so I don't think we're going to suffer from not having the three-headed monster, even if it's only a two heads plus and no disrespect to Burgess because he's been doing exceptionally well in the SANFL. I just don't think that he's a like-for-like replacement for Tex. I think he would probably find it difficult not to lead to the areas that the other two are leading to because that's what the role that he's been playing all season in the twos.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's my
So
view.
if theoretically, so in the finals, if one of Thilthorpe or I won't say Thilthorpe because that's different because he's the ruck work. But if Fog or Tex went down, you would not bring in Burgess. You would just go smaller.
Correct.
In the finals.
Correct.
Yeah. So you're saying there's no point trying it now then with Burgess.
Well, I would run a Cook or a Nankervis as a third tall out from the forward, like a medium tall out of the forward line. I wouldn't want Peugeot in there. That's just my view though. Fair. I can see your logic.
I'll just bring it up. Yeah. I'll just bring it up.
Yeah.
It's a possibility.
Yeah. And look, they may well go that way. They may well see Burgess as insurance for maintaining that forward structure, and they may want just the ability to be able to spread opposing defences in terms of their height. And if that's the sole purpose, then as long as they give Burgess good instructions, then there's no problems with it. It's just not what I would do.
Yep.
All right. We don't even need to worry about margins. It's not a danger game at all. Anyone see it as a danger game?
I don't think we'll win by as much as most people think. I think that I reckon that we won't be quite as intense a game. If you're going to have a non-intense game, this is probably the one to have it in. I think we can be non-intense, if you like, and win 36 points, 48 points, something like that, rather than going for the 120-point win.
Brownie?
Yeah, I'm a bit with you, Macro. I don't think we're going to absolutely smash them. I'd say maybe, 90 to 100.
We'll see.
Jesus.
You won't look it.
Large individual?
Look, it's funny. If we actually rewind back to where we played in the Adelaide Oval earlier in the year, we actually weren't very good against them for the first half, and then we ended up winning by 10 goals. I could see something similar happening here.
Just want a margin. Just give me a margin. The Grand Prix.
I'll go somewhere at 40 points. I think
40 points.
Yeah, look, they're pretty cooked, but I don't know. They got this whole they're celebrating bloody McGovern and what's his name, Sheed. That night, of course they are. They chose us to celebrate against them, but
they're in wheelchairs.
I don't know. No, I'm just saying. I wonder if that has an impact. It might not. It didn't in the bloody Sydney game earlier, did it, in the year? But it could. 40 to 50 points. There you go. I'll go. I know it's conservative. It's not.
What about after half time?
We've got to be careful, mate. We don't want to be one of those supporters that just.
Let's not get cocky.
Yeah, but
cookie.
They
you
are.
You don't want to get cookie, Brownie?
behave.
Without Harley and stuff, they haven't got much going for them, and they've got so many injuries, and their tools are also young. So we should win by more than I'm suggesting, but I'll just be conservative. 40 to 50.
All right. I'm saying 120. Our biggest ever win at the over in the West. They haven't got anyone playing for them. It should be a 20-goal win.
I don't know what to say about that.
All right. Well, look, it's been a fun and interesting cast tonight. It's lovely to, I think everyone would agree that it's lovely to actually be in contention and be able to talk so positively about the team that we've supported for so long, and also just to have the confidence that they're going to turn up and give us an effort, win, lose or draw. The last thing I guess I'd say, my own personal point of view, and you guys can have a say on this as well, I really think that it's a free hit for the Crows this year, and I hope that the players see that as well and don't take on the weight of expectation, because they're probably 2 years ahead of where we all thought their rebuild would be. And the fact that we're here now and it's an open season, of course they should be gunning to win it, and there's that expectation. But I think in terms of us as supporters and the crowd and the general supporter base, I think they need to know that we're just behind them, because this is like a dream come true for everybody, and there's no expectations on this team as far as I'm concerned, and the further they can get, the better. Mate, what do you reckon?
Yeah, look, I think you're right. I don't think at the beginning of the season any of us we were going to be as where we are, like top of the ladder with 3 games to go. I don't think anybody could possibly say that they genuinely thought that. I think that, and I'd say that would have applied inside the club as well as us supporters outside. Whether it's a free hit, I wouldn't go quite as far as to say that. Once you're playing in a final, the reality of it does hit you. But by the same token, I think the attitude of the club should be, well, look, you're playing good enough to be there. Just keep playing it, and we'll see what happens.
Go out and enjoy it.
Yeah, and if they do that, you never know. They could just go all the way. They really could.
Granny, you reckon?
I think they're capable.
Yeah, I reckon. I mean, a win would be great, but I think I'm more interested in seeing us hold our medal and get top 2. If we can get 2 home finals, I think that's going to be a massive win compared to where we thought we'd be. If we can, lucky enough to win the grand final or get to a grand final, that'd be fantastic. But I just think getting 2 home finals is a massive step forward and something that we can rebuild or rebound from next year.
100%. Large human.
Look, sorry.
I was going to say gargantuan human, but I thought that was fat shaming. So
I'm not that big, no. Look, I think that I agree partly. The only thing that I'm hesitant to say about that is that, you know, it is tough to get in these positions. Winning footy is not easy at this level, and you know, there's nothing to say that we won't have a worse injury run next year or whatever. Like theoretically, like you would think that we improve over the next couple of years because of the list profile, but it doesn't always work like that. And sometimes you just got to cash in when the opportunity presents. At the same time, I agree that I hope the players don't feel too much expectations, because that was definitely going to have a negative impact on our performance in the finals, if so. And they'll have psychologists and stuff at the club to help, you know, alleviate that. So I'm sort of halfway there. I agree, Fiend, that we can't take the fun out of the whole experience, because this is a big thing for the club, and it's so exciting just to be playing finals and be respected again. But at the same time, you just never know. You can't take it for granted, because you never know what the future holds, and next year might not be as rosy as this year. So, but we might have to capitalize now. We might not, but I hope, at the very least, I hope we all enjoy it and enjoy the ride.
Absolutely, and I think from a player's point of view, you're right, big man. I just think from a fan's point of view, you know, anything that we achieve this year is a bonus, because let's face it, we would have been happy just to make finals at the beginning of the year and maybe win one. So everyone should just enjoy the ride, and to me it just feels like we're on the beginning of the journey rather than at the end of the journey, right? So whereas at 2017 it really felt like the summit and we had one opportunity, this feels like we're just on the climb up, and we've got this opportunity now, and you know, it'll just it'll play out the way it will. Anyway, plenty of time to talk about that as the weeks progress. Gentlemen, it's been a pleasure, an honour, a privilege, and thanks for coming.
Yeah, good night all.
Thanks, mate.
Thanks, Fane. Thanks, Brandon.
Thanks everyone for joining
Cheers,
us.
guys.
They're all saying good night prematurely. Are you guys always that premature, are you? Thanks to everyone who's joined us on Discord and on YouTube. Thanks to for the support from Radicus and J&M and everyone else during the course of the week. Don't forget, if you haven't yet and you feel like doing so, please like and subscribe. Now, all right, one last thing. I don't know, Brownie and Big Man, I don't know whether you're a YouTube user. Have you guys been noticing bloody camp stuff coming up on your YouTube feed over the last few days?
As in, like, Crows Camp?
Like, yeah, old Crows Camp videos from SEN and Fox and all that. Just over the last week or so, YouTube starts throwing up 2-year-old videos about the bloody camp.
No.
Well, I haven't seen it.
I haven't copped that, but maybe you've been looking. The algorithm's got you, Fane. You've been looking at too much camp stuff.
Oh no, I haven't at all. That's the point. It's kind of bizarre, but there's been a few on chat, and I posed a question in Crow's chat earlier, and a few other people. So it's just goes to show what the bloody algorithm's like. Anyway, that's enough from us. Thanks everyone for joining. We will see you next week at the same time. Until then, have a good week and good night.
Yeah. Bye all again.